We all know that life gets heavy sometimes, like those nights when your mind won't shut up, or when even tiny problems feel massive, or when your heart feels tired for no real reason at all. But what if rest could come from something as simple as quiet firelight and the gentle safety of Jesus watching over you? In today's video, we'll talk about finding calm in His presence, so let's not waste any time and let's begin. The fire pops softly, sending a brief spray of sparks upward, and Jesus' eyes follow them for a moment before drifting back to you. There's no rush in Him, no pressure to speak, no demand for perfect words. Just presence, just quiet, just that steady, unshakable assurance that you're not sitting out here alone. The night is wide, but He fills the whole space with peace. "Stay here with me," He says gently, not as a command, but an invitation. His voice blends with the crackling fire, warm and grounding. "You've carried so much. Sit, rest. Let the weight slide off your shoulders for a little while." You feel it, the truth of what He's saying. The heaviness you've been pretending isn't there, the exhaustion you've been powering through like some machine that never gets to shut down. The storms of life that you've learned to dodge, endure, or simply take hits from without flinching. And yet here, by this fire, with Him, something in you finally begins to unclench. Jesus shifts slightly, drawing His cloak closer around Himself, and the movement makes the shadows dance. "You've been fighting battles in silence," He says, not accusing, not disappointed, just stating it like someone who's been watching over you through every moment you thought was hidden. And you kept walking, even when it felt like there was no shelter left. You swallow, because He's right. Life doesn't always hit you with one big storm. Sometimes it's a bunch of small ones back to back, leaving you tired in places you didn't even know could get tired, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Jesus leans forward, His elbows resting loosely on His knees. "But you're here now. And I want you to understand something. My presence isn't just comfort, it's cover." He glances toward the surrounding darkness. Whatever pressed against your heart, whatever whispered fear or doubt, whatever convinced you were alone, none of it gets to sit beside this fire unless you invite it. The flames reflect in His eyes, and you feel something settle inside you, like your soul finally exhaling. "You've always had a shelter," He continues softly. "Not a place. Me. I've walked with you into every storm, even the ones you didn't think you'd survive. And I'll keep doing it." His voice deepens, steady as stone. "I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, neither of you speak. You just listen to the wind hum through the branches overhead. The fire's warmth seeps into Saudade. You loosening tension from your shoulders, your jaw, the space behind your ribs where anxiety likes to curl up and live rent-free. Then Jesus adds quietly, "Storms don't end when you pretend you're strong. Storms end when you remember who's standing with you." You let that sink in. Because honestly, that's been the thing. You've been bracing yourself, surviving, pushing through every wave on your own strength. But here, with Him, the storm doesn't feel as big. It doesn't feel like it owns you. He sits back, letting the firelight illuminate His face. "Let my presence be your shelter tonight," He says. "Let the nearness of who I am become the place your heart runs to." The words don't come across as poetic or dramatic. They come across as real, as if He's been waiting a long time to tell you this, as if you were meant to hear it right now, in this exact moment. And slowly, you begin to feel something shift inside you. Not a sudden transformation, more like the beginning of one, like the first sign of calm after hours of rain, like noticing the clouds finally drifting apart. Jesus glances at you again, a soft smile tugging at the corner of His mouth. "You don't have to talk about what you've been carrying yet. There's time. For now, just be here. Let the quiet work on you." The fire crackles again, brighter this time, as if agreeing with Him. You breathe deeper. The night doesn't feel as cold anymore. The world doesn't feel as heavy. And for the first time in a long time, the thought crosses your mind, maybe I'm actually okay. Maybe I'm actually safe. Jesus seems to hear that silent thought. "You are," He says gently. "You're safe." The warmth from the fire feels different now. Not just physical heat, but something reaching deeper, steadying you, grounding you in a way you didn't realize you needed. Jesus watches the flames, his expression soft. When the heart finally rests, he murmurs, truth becomes easier to face. His words linger, mixing with the fire's glow, preparing your spirit for what comes next. A deeper look at the quiet burdens and unseen weight you've been carrying far too long. And as the night settles again around you, the transition into the next chapter feels natural. Because once you've found shelter, the next step is being honest about what you brought here with you. The fire burns steady, its glow brushing against your face as Jesus watches you with the kind of gentleness that makes hiding pointless. You can feel it, the way he sees past your silence, past the things you haven't said, past the things you've been trying to outrun. There's no pressure coming from him, but there's an unspoken invitation hanging in the air. The kind that makes your chest tighten a bit because you know. He's not here for the version of you that pretends everything's fine. He's here for the real you, the one who's been carrying. More than anyone realizes. You've been holding a lot, Jesus says quietly, not as an accusation, but as a truth. He's been watching unfold for a long time. More than you were ever meant to carry alone. You look into the fire, watching a piece of wood collapse into glowing embers. It reminds you of yourself, running on low energy, expected to keep going no matter what. You don't even know when the heaviness started. Maybe months ago. Maybe years. Maybe it's just always been there in some shape or form. Jesus continues, some of those weights you learned to ignore, some of them you convinced yourself weren't a big deal, and some you didn't tell anyone about because you didn't want to burden them. His voice is soft, but his words hit deep because they're exactly right. You've been the strong one, the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who doesn't complain, the one who gets back up even when they're exhausted, the one who doesn't want to be a problem for anybody. And over time, all of that piles up until you're carrying mountains behind your ribs. Jesus leans back, the firelight catching the edges of his features. But you don't have to pretend with me. You don't have to hold everything in. He pauses, letting the sound of the crackling fire fill the moment. I already know every burden, every fear, every guilt, every hidden ache. I'm not asking you to confess things for my sake. I'm asking so your heart can rest. There's a part of you that wants to speak, to spill everything, but the words don't come. And Jesus seems to understand that too. Sometimes, he says, the weight isn't heavy because of what happened, but because you've been carrying it alone for too long. You blink, and your eyes sting more than you expect. Jesus sees it, but he doesn't push. He lets you breathe, lets you sit with your own thoughts, lets you feel instead of forcing yourself to be okay. In the quiet, you realize there are things you haven't said out loud in years, fears that keep you up at night, memories that still hurt, mistakes that replay in your mind, people you miss, people you forgive but still struggle with. Some of these things feel too small to matter, others feel too complicated to explain. But they're all heavy, and Jesus knows every one of them. You've been trying to be strong, he says gently, but strength isn't silence. Strength isn't pretending. His eyes meet yours. Strength is honesty. Strength is letting me hold what's too heavy for you. The wind shifts and the fire flares up for a moment, as if agreeing with him. Jesus' presence feels even closer now, warm and steady, like he's anchoring the entire moment with his nearness. There is no burden too ugly for me, he says. No fear too irrational, no guilt too old, no pain too hidden. Whatever feels overwhelming to you is light in my hands. Something eases. Inside you, not completely, but enough for you to breathe a little deeper, enough for you to admit, even silently, that, yeah, you're tired, you're overwhelmed, and you don't want to keep pretending you're fine. Jesus notices the shift. That's it, he whispers. You don't have to solve everything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to hold everything together. His voice softens even more. Just be real with me. I'm right here. You sit with his words, letting them settle in the places that have been tight for too long. The night doesn't feel as heavy now. The fire's warmth feels like it's sinking deeper into your bones, and your shoulders, they're not as tense as before. You're safe to let go, Jesus says, piece by piece, weight by weight. You don't have to drop everything at once. Just let your heart breathe. His words feel like a gentle hand on the back of your mind, guiding you towards something quieter, softer, more freeing. The fire begins to calm again, the flames settling into a steady rhythm that matches the slow, deep breaths you're finally taking. And with each breath, it becomes clearer. The heaviness you've been carrying isn't meant to stay trapped inside. Something in you is ready to breathe again, ready to loosen the tightness around your heart, ready to step into a calm you haven't felt in a long time. That's exactly where the night begins to lead you next, toward stillness, toward clarity, toward learning how to truly breathe again. The fire settles into a low, steady glow, the kind that softens everything it touches. You can still feel the weight you let surface a moment ago, but it isn't suffocating now. It sits gently, like something finally seen instead of shoved aside. Jesus watches you quietly, his expression warm, patient, understanding, the look of someone who isn't in a hurry for you to figure everything out at once. "Listen," he says softly. "Before anything else, breathe." It sounds simple, almost too simple, but he says it in a way that makes you actually pay attention. You inhale slowly, and as you do, Jesus closes his eyes for a moment, breathing with you. Steady, calm, unforced. Your chest rises, then falls, and the second breath comes easier. The third, easier still. "Your heart has been running for too long," he says, opening his eyes again. "You learned to survive by staying on alert. Even when nothing was happening, your mind kept preparing for impact." You swallow, because he's right. You've lived too long in that quiet tension, the kind where you're not actively in crisis, but your body acts like you could be at any second. That constant hum of pressure, worry, expectation. Jesus sees it like it's written across your skin. "That's why I want you to slow down," he continues. "Not for me, for you. You need stillness like you need air." You breathe again, but this time it doesn't feel like survival. It feels like permission. The fire crackles softly, its rhythm gentle and almost hypnotic. You notice how the shadows sway with each flicker, how the heat wraps around you like a blanket. Everything in the moment feels quiet, safe, honest. "You've forgotten what real rest feels like," Jesus says, not unkindly. "Not sleep, not distraction, rest, the kind that reaches deep and lets your soul unclench." He speaks as if he's guiding you into something slow and sacred. "Stillness isn't the absence of problems," he says. "It's the space where you finally stop fighting everything inside you." You look at him, and he holds your gaze with tenderness that feels almost overwhelming. "Breathe again." So you do. And it's easier than before. He shifts slightly, drawing his cloak around him. His posture is relaxed, grounded, like he could sit by this fire with you forever and it would never be wasted time. "Your world moves fast," he says quietly. "Your thoughts move faster. But your soul was designed to breathe at my pace, not the pace of fear or pressure." You feel the honesty of that hit deep. You've been living fast on the outside, but even faster on the inside, rushing through decisions, emotions, moments, trying to stay ahead of pain, trying not to fall behind in life, trying not to disappoint people, trying to be enough. Jesus sees all of it, and none of it scares him. "Slow down with me," he whispers. "Let the noise fade for a moment." You close your eyes, letting your breath match the rhythm of the fire. Inhale with the rise, exhale with the fall. Even your heartbeat starts to soften. You didn't realize how loud your mind had been until now. Jesus speaks again, but this time his voice is barely above a whisper. You don't need to perform here. You don't need to be strong or composed. You can just be. It feels like a weight lifts, not completely, but enough for your body to loosen a little, enough for your chest to open, enough for you to finally feel safe letting your guard down. With your eyes still closed, you sense Jesus' presence beside you, steady and real. He doesn't touch you, but his nearness itself is comforting, like warmth without heat, like peace without effort. "Let your breathing remind you," he murmurs. "You belong to someone who isn't overwhelmed by you." A breeze passes by, cool but gentle, brushing across your skin. The fire shifts, crackling lightly. You feel the ground beneath you, solid and unmoving. Everything around you is quiet, almost sacred. And in that sacred quiet, Jesus speaks again, but this time, His words settle deeper than before. When you slow your breathing, you begin to hear what your soul has been trying to say, and what I've been saying all along. You open your eyes slowly, the world around you softer, almost illuminated. Jesus meets your gaze, and there's no rush, no pressure, just calm recognition. You're learning to rest, he says. Not because the world is easy, but because I'm here. You breathe once more, and now it feels natural, like something that was supposed to feel good, but you forgot it could. Jesus watches you, pleased, not proud in a distant way, but warm, close, almost familial. Good, he whispers. Let your heart settle. When the soul gets quiet, that's when my voice becomes clear. The fire hums quietly, and you feel your whole being soften. The stillness isn't empty. It's full. Full of peace. Full of presence. Full of something deeper waking up inside you. And as you sit there, breathing fully for the first time in a long while, the night gently invites you toward what comes next. The moment where quiet becomes clarity, and clarity becomes the place where his voice finally reaches you. The stillness around the fire settles deeper, like the night itself is exhaling with you. Your breathing has softened, your mind has stopped sprinting in every direction, and for the first time in a long while, the world feels quiet enough for your heart to actually listen. Jesus watches you with a soft, knowing gaze, the kind of look that says he can see the shift happening inside you, subtle but real. You feel that? He asks quietly. You nod, though you're not entirely sure how to explain it. You just know that something inside you has gone from tight and frantic to slow and grounded, like your soul finally found a seat after standing too long. That's the beginning, Jesus says. When the noise fades, even a little, you start hearing what was always there. He turns his eyes toward the darkness beyond the fire, not in fear, but in understanding. My voice isn't loud, he continues. It doesn't shout, it doesn't push, it doesn't demand, it whispers, and a whisper can only be heard when your heart stops running from itself. You sit with that for a moment, watching the flames sway gently. A whisper. It makes sense. You've always imagined God's voice as thunder or lightning or something grand. But now, sitting here beside him, it feels obvious that he'd speak in ways that invite closeness, not distance. Jesus glances back at you. You've heard me before, he says. Maybe you didn't recognize it. Maybe you thought it was just your own thoughts. But every time you felt gently nudged toward peace, that was me. Every time a little clarity appeared in the middle of confusion, that was me. Every time you felt a sudden softness toward someone you were angry with, that was me too. You blink, letting his words sink in. It's strange. When he puts it like that, you can remember moments that felt different from the usual noise in your mind. Moments of calm that weren't normal for you. Moments where a truth popped up that you knew you didn't come up with on your own. Moments of unexpected comfort. Jesus leans forward, slightly, elbows on his knees. People think they can't hear me because they're waiting for lightning, he says with a small smile. But I'd rather sit close and speak softly. The firelight dances across his face, making him look both ancient and young at the same time. Timeless, familiar, safe. Why softly? You ask. Because I want you near, he replies. A whisper means you have to lean in. There's something in that sentence that warms your whole chest. You realize he isn't distant or unreachable. He's close enough that you could hear him if you simply paused long enough to listen. Jesus continues, my whisper shows up in peace that doesn't make sense, in truth that settles deep, in direction that feels gentle but firm, in conviction without shame, in comfort that doesn't rely on circumstances. As he speaks, it becomes clearer and clearer that his voice isn't about volume, it's about presence. It feels like warmth, like clarity, like a gentle truth sliding into place. The fire crackles softly, sparks spiraling upward before fading into the night. Jesus watches them rise, then murmurs, the world is loud, but I am not. If you only listen for loud things, you'll miss me. You feel that line settle somewhere deep, like it unlocks something. You've been waiting for dramatic signs, big messages, unmistakable signals. But maybe the real signs have been small. small enough to miss when you're overwhelmed, anxious, or rushing. Jesus looks at you again, softer now. Your heart is quieter tonight, he says. You can hear more than you could before. You breathe out slowly, letting that truth settle. The night air feels thick with peace, and the fire's warmth wraps around you like a blanket. Everything feels clearer, not in a dramatic enlightenment way, but in a gentle, grounded way, like fog slowly lifting. Tell me, Jesus says quietly, what do you feel right now? You think for a moment. The answer comes slowly, but it comes from a true place inside you. Calm. Jesus smiles, and it's the kind of smile that feels like sunrise. That, he says, is my whisper, peace that shows up before you even know why. You realize you didn't earn this peace. You didn't force it. It's simply here, given freely. And with it comes the awareness that maybe, just maybe, his voice has been around you more often than you realized. Learn this, Jesus says softly. My whisper always leads to clarity. It always leads to truth. It always leads to rest. You nod, feeling that truth settle deeper with every breath you take. And when you learn to hear my whisper, he adds, trust becomes possible. Real trust, the kind that holds steady even when life feels unsure. The fire flickers brighter for a moment, as if echoing his words. You feel your heart shift again, preparing for something deeper, something steady, something honest. And as the night wraps you in calm, it becomes clear that what comes next is about more than just hearing him. It's about learning to trust the one whose whisper is steady enough to guide you through anything. The fire burns low, its glow turning a deeper shade of gold as the night settles fully around you. The whisper Jesus spoke of still lingers in your chest like a soft echo, steady and warm. You can feel something inside you loosening. Not completely, but enough to make space for a kind of honesty you haven't touched in a long time. Jesus sees it, and there's a quiet, almost proud tenderness in his eyes. You're listening now, he says softly. Really listening. And that's where trust begins. He taps a small twig into the fire, and the flames curl around it instantly. Most people think trust grows in moments of victory, he continues, when everything is clear and bright and easy. He shakes his head with a gentle smile. But that's not where real trust lives. You watch the flames dance around the twig, slowly turning it into embers. Trust is built here, Jesus says, gesturing at the night around you. In the dark, in the uncertainty, in the moments when you're not sure what tomorrow looks like. You swallow. Because yes, that part you understand all too well. You've been through nights where your thoughts ran wild, nights when fear felt louder than anything else, nights when your heart felt stretched thin and fragile, nights when you wondered if you were truly going to be okay. Jesus shifts slightly, folding his hands loosely. It's easy to trust when the sun is out, he says. It's harder when it's quiet and your mind starts asking questions you don't have answers for. His gaze moves back to you. And yet, I build trust in places where you can't see the path, because trust isn't about seeing. He pauses, letting the words settle. It's about who's with you. You breathe out slowly, the truth of that sinking deep. You've spent so much of your life trying to control outcomes, overthinking everything, convincing yourself that if you could just plan things perfectly, you wouldn't get hurt. But here, in the stillness, beside him, it feels different. It feels like trust isn't something you force, it's something you allow. Jesus senses the thought. You've been trying to carry yourself alone for a long time, he says. You've been trying to be prepared for every possibility, every disappointment, every unexpected hit. His voice softens. You've built so many walls around your heart that sometimes even you can't get in. The words aren't harsh. They're honest. And they're spoken with so much compassion that they touch a tender part of you. I know why you did it, he says. You were protecting yourself. You were doing the best you could with what you had. But those walls, they kept me out too. The fire crackles, sending small sparks upward. You watch them disappear into the darkness, feeling something inside your chest tighten and soften at the same time. Trust isn't about pretending you're not afraid, Jesus says quietly. It's about letting me be with you in the fear, letting me carry what you can't, letting me step into the places you've been guarding. He leans forward a little. I never wanted you to face any of it alone. There's a long pause, not awkward, just full. The kind of silence that holds weight and meaning. You learned to survive in the dark, he says. Now I want to teach you how to trust in it. You take a slow breath, deeper than you meant to, and your body reacts before your mind does. Your shoulders loosen, your hands unclench a little, your posture softens. It feels like some part of you is finally letting him close. Jesus notices. His smile is small, warm, and deeply reassuring. Good, he whispers. Let me in. Bit by bit. The fire warms your face, the air around you calm and cool. The night doesn't feel threatening anymore. It feels honest, like a place where things can finally come to the surface without judgment. Trust grows strongest when everything is quiet, Jesus says, because in the quiet, you hear me the clearest. You let your eyes drift toward the fire, absorbing the moment, the warmth, the peace, the sense of someone steady beside you. It creates a space inside you that feels strangely safe. Safe enough that memories begin drifting up. Not loudly, not painfully, just appearing. Jesus notices the shift in your expression, and his voice softens even more. There are things in your past that still weigh on you, he says. Things you moved on from, but never actually healed from. You don't speak, but he sees the truth anyway. The old wounds hiding beneath your strength, the hurts you buried because life demanded you keep going. His eyes meet yours again, not demanding, just understanding. We'll face them together, he says gently. You don't have to be afraid of what surfaces. The fire flickers, casting warm light across his face. You feel your heart prepare itself, slow, careful, hesitant, but ready in a way it hasn't been before. And just like that, the night begins guiding you toward the deeper places inside you, the ones where old wounds still linger, waiting to be seen so they can finally be healed. The fire burns a little quieter now, crackling softly as if it too senses the shift in the air. Jesus sits beside you with the steady calm of someone who knows what's coming next but refuses to rush you toward it. The night feels still, almost reverent, like the world itself is giving space for your heart to open. Some things you've carried for years, Jesus says gently, his eyes fixed on the flames. Not because you wanted to hold on to them, but because you didn't know where to put them. You look down at your hands, and it suddenly hits you how true that is. There are wounds you never named, things you told yourself didn't matter anymore, moments you buried because surviving felt easier than feeling, but they stayed, quiet, hidden, shaping you from the inside. Jesus doesn't look at you yet. He gives you time to breathe, time to face what's stirring. Pain that isn't healed doesn't disappear, he continues softly. It just finds new ways to speak. You feel that line in your chest, the way old wounds echo through your reactions, your fears, your defenses, the way past hurts make you flinch at harmless things, the way memories you never talk about still tighten your stomach. Jesus finally turns his gaze toward you, and there's no judgment in it, only compassion so deep it almost makes you look away. I know everything you've been holding, he says. Every moment that broke you, every word that stayed with you, every disappointment that cut deeper than you admitted, every silence you filled with blame. He pauses, letting the honesty settle. You thought ignoring the wound meant healing it, he whispers. But healing begins when you stop hiding it. The fire pops softly, sending a few sparks upward. The sound feels like a small release, a reminder that letting things break apart is sometimes the first step toward making space for something new. You don't have to be ashamed of any of it, Jesus says. Not the pain, not the fear, not the weakness, not the tears you swallowed, not the nights you tried to be strong when you were falling apart inside. His voice holds a tenderness that wraps around you like warmth. You've been too hard on yourself, he adds gently. Far harder than I ever asked you to be. Your throat tightens, because somewhere deep down, you've known that too. You've expected yourself to handle everything, to stay together, to never let anyone see the parts of you that felt fragile. You pushed forward even when you were hurting because slowing down felt dangerous, like you might unravel. Jesus shifts a little closer, not invading your space, just offering his presence in a way that feels grounding. "Show me the wounds," he says quietly. "Not because I don't know them, but because you need to see that I won't turn away." A faint breeze brushes across your skin, cool and gentle. You breathe in slowly. Feeling memories begin to surface. Not violently, not all at once, just quietly rising. Like things long buried, recognizing it's finally safe. Jesus watches the movement in your expression. "Some wounds came from people you trusted," he says softly. "Some came from things you never saw coming. Some came from your own choices. And some came from believing lies about who you are." You feel the truth of every sentence settle like small stones in your chest, heavy but real. He continues, "None of these wounds scare me. None of them make you less lovable. None of them make you too complicated for me to heal." You breathe out shakily. It feels like opening a door that's been locked for years. Jesus' voice becomes even softer. "Let yourself feel what you never had time to feel. I'll stay with you through all of it." You close your eyes for a moment, allowing memories to rise, not to overwhelm you, but to finally be acknowledged. The things you endured, the words that stung, the rejections that shaped how you see yourself, the losses you never had space to grieve, the mistakes you still judge yourself for. Jesus senses the heaviness and gently lays words over your heart like a bandage. "You survived things that should have broken you," he says. "You kept going when you didn't know how. You showed strength even in moments you saw yourself as weak." The firelight flickers gently across his face as he adds, "But you don't have to keep surviving alone. Healing isn't something you accomplish, it's something you receive." The night feels quieter now, the kind of quiet that invites your soul to rest. "You've brought your wounds into the light," Jesus says, "and that's the first step toward freedom." He studies you for a moment with a soft, steady gaze. Healing starts with honesty, but it grows through surrender. The fire glows warm and steady between you both, a silent invitation to release what you weren't meant to hold anymore, and to trust the one who can carry what you can't. And as the night settles deeper around you, your heart begins to sense what comes next, the moment where the act of opening becomes the act of letting go. The embers glow like quiet heartbeats now, soft and patient. You feel the heat on your palms as you lay your hands in your lap, fingers curled like they're holding something invisible. Jesus watches you with an expression that's all a tenderness, the kind that makes you want to stop pretending you don't carry things in your grasp. He doesn't demand you let go. He just looks at you the way a safe harbor looks at a battered ship, ready to receive whatever comes through the doorway. "Show me your hands," he says without hurry. It's more invitation than command, and somehow that makes it easier. You turn your palms upward, slowly, as if revealing a secret. Your hands look ordinary, maybe a little rough around the knuckles, the nails short from tasks done out of necessity. But in them, you can feel the weight you've kept. Old hurts, unpaid debts, a relationship that never healed, a promise you tried to keep that wasn't yours to carry. You realize how tightly you've been gripping every one of them, clenched until the skin went numb. Jesus smiles gently. "What we hold makes us heavy," he says. "Not because the thing is big, but because we refuse to set it down." It stings because it's true. There are things you hold that seem ridiculous when you say them. Out loud, a tiny slight from years ago, the memory of someone who left without an explanation, a failure you replay like a broken record. And other things that feel enormous. Betrayal, loss, fear that woke you up at 3 a.m. for months. Some are literal burdens. Some are stories you've told yourself so long they feel like truth. All of them take up space inside your hands. You think holding them protects you, Jesus says softly. You think if you let go, you'll lose what you've built or what you've known. But holding them tight isn't safety. It's a trap. He reaches out, not to take, but to mirror your motion, palms open and relaxed. There's trust in how he holds still. "Open your hands," he asks. Your first instinct is to resist. What if you let go and there's nothing to catch you? What if the thing you release was the only thing keeping someone else together? What if your identity depends on being the strong one who never drops the burden? Jesus watches those little flash fears pass over your face like clouds. Surrender doesn't mean you become weak, he says. It means you stop pretending you're the only one who can carry it. It's an act of trust. It's wise, not naive. You breathe, you let your fingers loosen a bit. The motion feels strange and vulnerable. It feels like stepping off a ledge where gravity is not your enemy but a relief. You imagine dropping the weight and watching it fall into darkness, except the darkness isn't emptiness. It's his hands, his steadiness, waiting to catch what you cannot. Jesus leans forward. Say what you can't keep, he suggests. The words come out halting, small, like pieces of fragile glass. A name, a mistake, a regret, an anger that's never had a voice. Each thing you whisper out loud is a pebble you set down. The act of naming is holy here, not because you're unburdening Jesus of information, but because you're allowing yourself to stop hiding the load. I know, he says each time, as if he's been carrying those exact pebbles with you all along. I've always known. I've been beside you in every moment you thought you were alone. There's a tenderness in that admission that loosens something tight inside you. You realize he never wanted you to be stoic in isolation. He wanted partnership, relief. Open completely, he says finally, voice gentle but steady. Not a little. Not for a moment. Fully. Your hands go fully open. The sensation is immediate and odd, a mix of fear and freedom. There's a hollow space where the weight used to sit, and for the first time in a long while, your breath finds a deeper place in your lungs. Look at that space, Jesus says. It's not empty. It's room. Room for rest. Room for new things that are lighter and truer. Room for health and music and quiet laughter. Room for sleep that doesn't wake you in the dark. Surrender, he teaches next, is not passive. It's you choosing to place what hurts into my hands, he explains. It's you deciding to stop performing and start trusting. It's you saying, I'm not strong enough on my own, and that's okay. You think about all the times you equated letting go with failure, letting go of a relationship, a dream, an image of yourself. Those things felt like losing ground. But now, as your hands remain open, you see it differently. Letting go felt like falling before. Now it feels like finding foothold on something steadier. Jesus watches, then reaches to gently touch the inside of your wrists, not controlling, just connecting, as if to show you the link between letting go and being held. I will carry what you cannot, he promises. You are not the keeper of everything. You smile without meaning to. It's small, embarrassed, and relieved. The kind of smile that happens when the body realizes it doesn't have to work so hard. The fire hums softly between you, a steady presence that understands seasons of release. Your hands rest open in your lap, light and unfamiliar. There's a soft, clean quiet that wasn't there before, an absence of clenching that somehow is full of possibility. Jesus sits back, content, and says, Now, rest in what you've allowed me to hold. The heart breathes easier when hands are open. The night holds that new space like a blessing, and you feel your shoulders drop a fraction more. Something in you makes room for peace, the kind that comes after courage, after you have the bravery to set burdens down. The fire has settled into a deep, steady glow. The kind of warmth that doesn't flicker wildly anymore but holds its shape, like it's decided to stay with you for the long haul. Your hands are still open from before, light and free, and there's a quietness in your chest that wasn't there earlier. It feels like you've cleared a space inside yourself, and something gentle is beginning to fill it. Jesus watches you with a soft smile, like he's been waiting for this exact moment. Do you feel it? He asks, voice low and warm. You nod slowly, unsure how to describe it. It's not just relief, not just calm. It feels deeper, like a presence settling beside you, steady and loyal. Not loud, not dramatic, just here. That, Jesus says, is peace. He shifts slightly, letting his cloak fall around him. The firelight dances over his features, painting him with soft gold. Peace isn't an emotion, he continues. It's a companion. It sits with you. It stays with you. It doesn't vanish the moment life shifts. You breathe in the warmth of the moment, letting the quiet seep through you. You realize peace isn't something that arrives in a rush. It doesn't slam the door open. It comes gently, like someone entering a room respectfully. someone who cares more about presence than performance. Jesus leans back on his hands, eyes half closed as if he too is enjoying the steadiness of the fire. Peace is my gift to you, he says, not a short-term fix, not a momentary break, a companion. You look at the fire again, noticing how soft and confident its glow has become. Earlier, every crackle felt like a conversation. Now the flames are so steady they barely whisper, and that stillness is its own kind of miracle. Peace doesn't erase your story, Jesus murmurs. It sits beside it. It sits beside you. Some people think peace means forgetting pain or pretending nothing hurts, but real peace is strong enough to stand beside every part of who you are, the healed places and the hurting ones. You think about the wounds you brought forward, the things you finally set down, the space you opened, and now, this warmth sits gently where the weight used to be. Jesus watches you absorb that thought. You were never meant to carry everything, he says. Peace is what fills the space where burdens used to live. You let your shoulders relax a little more. The night air is cool, but the fire's warmth reaches you in a way that feels intentional, like it's wrapping around your heart, not just your skin. Then Jesus says something that catches you off guard. Peace has been trying to reach you for a long time. You blink, surprised. He smiles knowingly. You brushed it off sometimes, he continues gently, because you were used to chaos. You expected tension. You got familiar with worry. Peace felt foreign, too quiet, too gentle, too different from the world you learned to survive in. Those words land with a strange heaviness, not painful, but revealing. You remember days when calmness felt suspicious, moments when silence made you anxious, times when good things felt temporary, like they'd slip through your fingers if you breathed too deeply. Jesus sees the recognition in your expression, but now you're learning, he says softly. You're learning that peace isn't a trick, it's a friend. He shifts a little closer, not enough to overwhelm, just enough for you to feel his nearness more clearly. And this friend doesn't leave when life gets loud. The fire pops quietly, a warm echo. Peace follows you, Jesus explains, not because you're strong enough to hold on to it, but because I'm strong enough to sustain it. You look down at your open hands again. They feel different, lighter, yes, but also more receptive. Like they're ready to receive something instead of gripping something. Peace is what your soul looks like when it isn't fighting, he says. Your chest tightens for a moment, then softens. There's truth in that sentence that hits somewhere deep. You're realizing how exhausting it's been to always be on guard, always bracing, always anticipating, always holding yourself together. Jesus continues, peace is not a moment, it's a posture. It's me sitting beside you, even when everything else feels uncertain. The night is quiet around you, a kind of holy quiet, not empty but full. The fire hums like a heartbeat. Your breath has found a natural rhythm that matches it. Jesus lowers his voice. When you know peace, then you can finally see yourself clearly. You look up at him, a question forming but not spoken. He smiles softly, already knowing what you're wondering. You've forgotten who you are, he says gently. Not on purpose. Life just got loud. Pain rewrote things that were never true. Wounds whispered lies about your worth, and you started believing shadows instead of reality. You swallow. The words hit deeper than expected. But peace clears the fog, he says, eyes steady on yours. And once the fog lifts, you'll remember how I see you. You'll remember who you were made to be. The fire glows like sunrise now, warm and steady. A light that doesn't ask anything from you, only sits with you. And as the night folds around you with soft warmth, something inside you steadies, ready for the next truth waiting to unfold, who you really are in the eyes of the one who never stops seeing you. The fire glows steady, warm enough to ease the tight places in your chest. You sit there for a moment, soaking in the peace that settled around you like a blanket. It feels different now, not fragile, not temporary, but rooted, like it has anchors you didn't know existed. Jesus watches you with quiet affection, his expression soft, patient, almost proud of how far your heart has already come. Now, he says gently, let's talk about something you've forgotten. You look up, and his eyes hold the kind of certainty that makes you pay attention. You've spent a long time seeing yourself through pain, he continues, through mistakes, through other people's words, through moments that hurt more than you let on, and somewhere along the way, you lost sight of who you truly are. The statement lands with a strange weight, not heavy but real, because deep down, you know there's truth in it. You've shaped your identity around struggle, around survival, around expectations, around fear of not being enough. You've let old wounds narrate who you think you are. Jesus tilts his head slightly, studying your expression. Tell me, he says softly, what do you think I see when I look at you? You swallow. It's a simple question, but one that feels unexpectedly hard. You think about your flaws, your failures, your regrets, the times you disappointed yourself, the harsh things your mind tells you late at night. I see someone who tries, you manage quietly, someone who does their best. Jesus' smile is warm, but there's a sadness in it too. Not disappointment, but compassion. I see so much more than that, he says. The fire flickers, illuminating his face with gentle light. When I look at you, Jesus says, I see someone chosen. Someone loved before they ever knew what love was. Someone who carries purpose, even in moments they feel lost. Your breath catches, not because the words are dramatic, but because they're steady. Sure, uncomplicated truth spoken with full conviction. He continues, I don't see your past as a disqualifier. I don't see your struggles as failures. I don't measure you by your lowest moments. I don't define you by your wounds. His voice softens. I see who you are beneath all of that. Something inside you shifts, hesitant but hopeful. You define yourself by what hurt you, he says. I define you by who created you. You look at him, and there's no distance in his gaze, no judgment, just love that feels almost overwhelming in its simplicity. I see strength you don't acknowledge, Jesus says, compassion you underestimate, courage you overlook, resilience you've built over years of storms. The fire crackles gently as he adds, and I see the parts of you that are still becoming, the parts that haven't healed yet, the parts that are learning, growing, stretching. He smiles softly. None of that makes you less precious to me. Something warm pushes against your ribs, an ache that feels like relief pressed too long beneath the surface. You think your worth changes with your mistakes, he says. It doesn't. You think your value depends on how much you accomplish or how well you perform. It doesn't. He pauses. You think you're hard to love sometimes. You're not. The words hit deep because they speak to the quiet fears you rarely admit. The ones that whisper you're too much or not enough. Jesus sees all of that and isn't fazed by any of it. Look at me, he says gently. You do. I call you mine, he says softly, like a truth carved into eternity. That identity cannot be lost, ruined, or replaced. Your throat tightens, and your eyes sting in a way that feels strangely freeing. Identity, Jesus continues, is not something you earn. It's something you receive, something given, something rooted in love, stronger than anything that has ever hurt you. You take that in, slowly, like someone tasting fresh air after being underground too long. He watches you quietly, letting the truth settle. You've spent so long thinking you had to prove yourself, he says, but you were loved before you ever began. The fire shifts, throwing a soft glow across the clearing. The night air feels warmer, safer, like his words are reshaping the space around you. And when you finally see yourself the way I do, Jesus says softly, hope becomes possible again. The sentence hangs gently in the air, and you feel something spark inside you, small but real, like an ember catching in a place that's been cold for too long. Jesus notices it too, and his smile deepens. Hope, he adds, is the next step. Once you see who you are, you can finally see what can grow. The quiet around you seems to brighten, the fire glowing like a promise waiting to unfold. And with your identity slowly settling back into its true place, your heart begins to open toward the warmth rising on the horizon. The kind of hope that builds, spark by spark, until it lights the whole night. The fire crackles softly, sending up a few glowing sparks that swirl into the dark sky before fading. You watch them drift upward, tiny flashes of light against the vast quiet. They look fragile at first, small, brief, almost insignificant, and yet something about them catches your attention. Something about the way they rise, even for a moment, carries a promise your heart recognizes before your mind does. Jesus follows your gaze. Hope looks like that sometimes, he says gently. Small, flickering, easy to miss if you're not paying attention. You exhale slowly. It makes sense in a strangely simple way. Hope rarely announces itself with fireworks. It starts small, a single thought, a quiet possibility, a tiny spark of maybe, especially after a long season of doubt. Jesus leans forward, warming his hands over the fire. People expect hope to arrive fully formed, he continues. Strong, certain, unshakable. But most of the time, hope begins in the faintest places. He pauses, letting the sparks rise again. You watch them float upward like little glowing seeds. Hope begins like this, he says, pointing gently. A tiny rise in the darkness. You feel something shift inside, subtle, almost delicate. A part of you that's been numb for a long time begins to warm, just a little. Jesus turns toward you. Hope isn't loud, he says. It doesn't force itself into your heart. It grows when your heart finally has room for it. You think about the space created when you opened your hands, the peace that settled beside you, the truth of who you are in his eyes. All of it feels like fertile ground, soil turned over, softened, ready for something to grow. It takes courage to let hope in, Jesus adds quietly, because hope means believing things can change, believing healing is possible, believing you're not stuck where you've been. Your chest tightens a little at that. Hope is beautiful, yes, but it's also scary. Because if you let yourself hope and things fall apart again, then what? Jesus sees the hesitation in your eyes. Hope doesn't promise life will be perfect, he says. It promises you won't face any of it alone. He pauses, letting that truth sink in. Hope isn't about certainty of outcomes, he continues. It's about confidence in me. The fire pops softly, sending another small spark upward. You watch it drift, this time lingering a little longer before fading into the dark. And in that simple rise, you feel something like recognition, as if your heart knows how to mirror that motion. Hope rises in you the same way, Jesus says, following your gaze. Gently, slowly, a spark that becomes a flame, then a steady fire. You breathe in deeply, sensing the warmth spreading through your chest. It's not dramatic, it's not overwhelming, but it's real. This soft, growing warmth that feels like the beginning of something good. Jesus smiles. Hope lifts your eyes, he says. It gives you strength to look past the shadows and see possibility again. You nod quietly because you can feel it. After everything, the heaviness, the wounds, the surrender, the peace, hope feels like the natural next heartbeat, a quiet rising inside you that doesn't need permission anymore. Let it rise, Jesus whispers. Even if it's small, even if it flickers, let it rise. You watch the fire, and the flames start to look different. Not just warmth, but symbol. Not just light, but invitation. Hope grows when you trust that I'm working even when you can't see it, Jesus says. Hope grows when you believe that your story isn't finished. Hope grows when you realize that what's ahead is bigger than what's behind you. The night air feels a little lighter now, like the whole clearing has shifted into some gentler rhythm. You feel it too. A soft expansion inside, like you have more room to breathe. Jesus rests his elbows on his knees and looks at you with quiet sincerity. Hope rising is a sign your heart is healing, he says. It means something inside you is waking up again. You look at him, and there's a small smile tugging at your lips. Something genuine, something you didn't force. And he sees it immediately. There it is, he says warmly. That spark. You feel a warmth spread from your chest to your face, shy but real, soft but undeniable. Hope doesn't just lift your heart, Jesus adds. It strengthens it. Another spark lifts from the fire, brighter this time, drifting upward like a tiny star being released. You watch it vanish into the cool night sky, and you realize something. You don't feel afraid of hoping anymore. Not the way you used to. Let that strength settle in you, Jesus says softly, because what comes next will build on it. The fire hums in agreement, steady and bright, and as you sit there with Jesus feeling the ember of hope glowing warm inside your chest, you sense the next part of the journey stirring gently, the moment where that rising hope begins to shape the strength you'll need for what lies ahead. The fire glows warmer now, as if it feels the small but steady rise of hope inside you. That inner warmth doesn't fade. It stretches, expands, settles deeper. It doesn't feel fragile anymore. It feels like something quietly preparing you. Jesus watches you with a soft, steady gaze, the kind that makes you feel seen in ways you never realized you needed. That spark you feel, he says gently, isn't meant to stay small. You look up, feeling his words cradle something inside you. Hope rising was one thing, but strength? That feels like a bigger step, a heavier one. Yet Jesus speaks it as if it's already unfolding in you. Strength doesn't come from pushing yourself harder, he says. It doesn't come from pretending you're okay or forcing yourself to keep going when your heart is exhausted. He shakes his head, eyes reflecting the firelight. That isn't strength, that's survival. The distinction hits deep. You know survival well. You've done it for years. You've pushed through days on empty energy and made decisions you weren't ready for and carried pain you never admitted to anyone. You called it strength, but really, it was endurance, barely holding on, keeping the mask from slipping. Jesus reads that realization in your expression. You've been strong in ways that wore you out, he says. Now I want to show you strength that restores you instead. There's a calm conviction in his voice, the kind that makes you listen not out of obligation but out of hunger. My strength isn't about forcing or straining, he continues. It's about resting in me, trusting me, leaning into my presence until your heart steadies again. You take a slow breath, letting his words settle through the cracks in your soul. Real strength, Jesus says softly, isn't built on your abilities. It's built on my nearness. He places a hand over his heart. You draw strength from who I am, not from what you can do. You look at the fire again, watching how the flames stay upright even when the wind brushes against them. They don't fight the breeze. They simply respond, anchored by the glowing core beneath them. That's the kind of strength I want for you, Jesus says. Not brittle, breakable strength, not strength that collapses when life gets heavy. I want you anchored, rooted, held. He gestures to the fire. See how it doesn't panic? It doesn't rush to prove itself. It burns because it's connected to the source of its flame. Your chest tightens with a gentle ache, a good ache. You've been trying to burn on empty fuel for a long time, trying to be your own source, trying to be self-sufficient because you thought that's what strength looked like. Jesus knows that too. You don't have to be your own fire, he says. You don't have to produce your own strength. You don't have to be the one holding everything together. A slow exhale escapes you, like your lungs are finally telling the truth. Let me be the one who carries you, he whispers. Let my strength be the foundation beneath your steps. You imagine what that might feel like, walking into tomorrow without dread pressing on your ribs, facing the unknown with a steady heart instead of a trembling one. It feels almost foreign, but not impossible. Jesus studies your face, and his eyes soften even more. Strength isn't loud, he says. It doesn't always look like bravery. Sometimes it looks like standing back up. Sometimes it looks like choosing gentleness. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like resting when everything in you says push harder. He lets that sink in before adding, and sometimes it looks like trusting me when you don't see the path yet. The fire hums, steady and warm. Tomorrow will come, Jesus says. The future will arrive with its joys, its challenges, its unknowns, but you won't walk into any of it alone. He gestures gently toward you. The strength you need for tomorrow is already being placed in you tonight. You feel that truth settle in your bones, not as pressure, but as reassurance, as quiet confidence, as something forming beneath the surface. Let your hope rise, he says, and let it grow roots. Let it become the strength that steadies you, the strength that carries you into what's next. He sits back, letting the silence wrap around his words. The night air feels different, lighter, wiser, filled with a sense of forward motion even though you're still sitting by the fire. You're not done, Jesus says gently. There's more ahead. Not just responsibilities or challenges, but purpose, calling. Identity lived out, not just understood. The warmth you feel now isn't just comfort, it's readiness, a quiet, sincere readiness you didn't have before. Jesus sees it immediately. His smile widens, soft but certain. You're starting to see it, he says. You're starting to sense what your life is meant to carry. The fire crackles once, bright and confident, like it's opening a door to what comes next. The moment when who you are meets what you were made for, the moment where calling begins to take shape. The fire glows brighter for a moment, as if stirred by an unseen breeze, and the warmth settles across your face in a way that feels intentional, like the night itself is leaning in. You sit with the sense of readiness rising quietly inside you, that new strength Jesus spoke of taking root and stretching into the spaces that used to feel empty. He watches you with gentle certainty, like he already sees who you're becoming even before you do. You feel it, don't you? He asks softly. You nod, though the feeling is hard to put into words. It's not adrenaline, not excitement. It's something deeper, a tug, a knowing, a soft pull forward from a place inside you that's been silent for years. Jesus smiles, small and warm, as if he's been waiting for you to notice it. That, he says, is calling. The word settles over you like a warm blanket, comforting but powerful. You shift slightly, not in discomfort, but in realization. Calling. It sounds big, important, sacred, and yet the way Jesus says it makes it feel personal, intimate, like it's not something you have to chase, but something that's been whispering your name all along. You weren't made randomly, Jesus continues, voice steady with truth. You weren't born by accident or placed in this life without intention. Before you took your first breath, I already knew you. I knew your voice, your heart, your strengths, your future. I knew what you would overcome. I knew what you would grow into. You swallow hard. Something about the way he says I knew you hits deep, unraveling the belief that your life is messy or scattered or somehow behind. Jesus sees none of that. He sees design, purpose, identity woven long before your first mistake or heartbreak ever happened. Calling isn't about achievement, he says, as if dismantling your unspoken fears. It's not about performing well enough. It's not something you earn. His eyes soften even more. Calling begins with being known. He lets the silence hold that truth for a moment, giving it room to settle in your chest. You've spent years trying to figure out who you're supposed to be, he says. You've questioned if you're enough. You've wondered if you matter. You've tried to shape yourself into what others needed or expected. He tilts his head slightly, compassion in his gaze. But the real you, the one I formed, has always been calling out from underneath the noise. Your breath catches. Because yes, that resonates. You've felt that quiet pull before, in moments when something felt right without explanation, or when a certain path tugged at your chest, or when you felt drawn toward things that matched a part of you never fully understood. Jesus places a hand gently over his heart. I call you by name, he says, because you belong to me, and because what I formed in you is not small. His words don't inflate your ego. They awaken something honest and long buried. A sense that maybe your life carries more weight than the daily motions, more purpose than the struggles, more meaning than survival. You carry compassion that reaches people I place in your path, Jesus says. You carry resilience that inspires others. You carry gifts, some you know, some you haven't discovered yet, and all of them have purpose. The fire flickers beside him, reflecting in his eyes like a promise. Your calling is not a role, he says gently. It's a life, a way of being, a reflection of who I made you to be. He leans forward slightly, voice lower. And I'm not asking you to figure it all out tonight. I just want you to know you are called. The statement lands like an anchor and a breath of air at the same time, grounding yet freeing. You feel something stir in your chest, something steady and warm that feels like truth resonating with itself. Jesus watches you absorb it. You don't walk into calling with answers, he says. You walk into it with me. You feel your shoulders relax as that sinks in. You don't need clarity to begin. You only need closeness. And as you walk, he continues, I'll show you each step. You won't be navigating blind. You won't be guessing. I'll guide you. There's a new tone in his voice now, still gentle but carrying a quiet authority that feels like direction forming in the air around you. You've learned to hear my whisper, Jesus says. Now you'll learn to follow my light. He glances at the fire, its glow warm and unwavering. Guidance isn't a map, he says. It's presence. It's me beside you. It's light when you need it, wisdom when you ask for it, clarity when your heart is ready. Your breath steadies again. Calling isn't pressure, it's invitation and guidance. The next part of this journey is already stirring like the fire's glow illuminating the path ahead. Jesus smiles gently, knowing your heart is beginning to sense what comes next. The quiet steps of learning to walk in the light he gives, one moment at a time. The fire crackles softly, casting long trails of golden light across the ground. It stretches outward in uneven patterns, some bright, some dim, some fading before they reach the edge of the clearing. You watch how the flames move, how the glow shifts with every breath of the night air. Jesus follows your gaze, his expression thoughtful, almost tender. This, he says quietly, gesturing toward the glow, is what my guidance looks like. You tilt your head slightly. The light is beautiful, yes, but it's not uniform, not perfectly clear. Some areas glow strongly, while others fall into darkness. Jesus notices the unspoken question in your eyes. Guidance isn't a spotlight, he explains. It's not me shining every turn and every detail, every destination all at once. His eyes soften. It's light for the step you're on, and enough light for the one that comes next. He scoops a small twig and tosses it gently into the fire. The flames leap upward in response, pushing the glow a little farther. You watch how the brightness expands, not far, but farther than before. See, he says, each moment of trust gives you a little more light. You sit with that, letting the truth settle. You've always wanted clarity, clear answers, clear direction, the whole map laid out in front of you. But life has rarely worked that way. More often than not, you've been walking with questions buzzing in your chest, wishing you knew what was coming, praying not to make the wrong choice. Jesus leans closer, voice soft but filled with certainty. You were never meant to walk by sight, he says. You were meant to walk with me. There's no rebuke in his tone, only a gentle reminder, intimate and steady. When you look for a full roadmap, he explains, you're trying to replace relationship with certainty. He shakes his head slightly. But certainty doesn't change you, I do. The fire glows brighter on his face, illuminating his calm expression. You feel something warm settle in your stomach, the understanding that guidance isn't about being perfect. It's about being close. You've made good decisions before, Jesus continues, even when you were scared, even when you doubted yourself. His voice softens. And I was with you in every one of them, even the ones you questioned. You think back to the choices you second-guessed, to the paths you weren't sure were right, to the times you moved forward simply because doing nothing hurt too much. Maybe those moments weren't as directionless as they felt. Maybe the light was there, quiet, subtle, but real. Jesus watches your face and smiles. You've followed my light more times than you realize. A breath leaves your chest, steady and slow. He continues, my guidance is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's a gentle nudge. Sometimes it's restlessness that won't leave until you move. Sometimes it's peace settling where you least expect it. Sometimes it's a door closing, not to punish you, but to protect you. You look at him, and the truth hits differently when he says it. Kinder, softer, more grounded. Guidance, Jesus says, is me walking with you, not pushing you, not dragging you, not asking you to figure it all out, just walking. Another spark leaps upward from the fire, drifting into the night sky like a tiny lantern. Jesus follows it with his eyes. Light always rises, he murmurs, and so will you. There's a quiet confidence in his tone that steadies something inside you, a reminder that the path ahead isn't something to fear. Not when you're guided by the one who loves you more than you understand. I don't expect you to be fearless, Jesus says. I expect you to trust that when fear comes, I will stand with you in it. The wind shifts, and the firelight flickers across the ground again, revealing new shapes, new shadows, new pieces of the clearing you hadn't noticed before. It's subtle, but it's enough to understand the truth behind his words. You don't need full visibility to take the next step. You just need his presence. Jesus holds your gaze. Walking in my light takes courage, he says gently, not because the path is perfect, but because you're learning to walk differently now. You breathe in slowly, feeling that courage stir inside you, not loud, not forceful, but steady, born from peace and identity and calling. It rises like a small flame in your chest, warm and resolute. Jesus sees it and smiles with quiet approval. There it is, he says softly, the first spark of courage. The night around you softens, the fire humming like a promise, and inside you the recognition grows that what comes next, what your heart is beginning to step toward, is not the absence of fear, but the presence of courage, strong enough to face whatever lies ahead. The fire settles into a slow, rhythmic burn, its glow stretching softly across the clearing. You feel the warmth on your skin, gentle and steady, like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder. Jesus sits beside you, his presence calm and familiar, the kind of nearness that makes the darkness around you feel less intimidating. You've learned to breathe, learned to listen, learned to trust the next step. But now something deeper begins to stir. Courage doesn't start with noise, Jesus says quietly, eyes reflecting the firelight. It starts in silence. You look at him, and he nods slightly, as if confirming something you haven't said aloud. When everything is loud, he continues, your instincts take over. You react, you push, you survive. But true courage, real courage, is born in the quiet moments, the ones where nothing seems certain, the ones where you don't have answers yet. He shifts his hands toward the fire, warming them slowly. You learn to face storms because you had no choice. You learn to endure chaos because life forced you to. His voice softens. But courage formed in stillness, that's different. That's chosen, not demanded. You take that in slowly. Quiet has always been confusing to you, sometimes comforting, sometimes uncomfortable. It's the space where doubts can grow loud, where fears creep in, where memories whisper. But here, with him, the quiet feels different. It feels safe enough to examine what scares you, steady enough to hold your trembling places. Jesus watches your thoughts unfold. Fear tends to echo in silence, he says, but so does truth, and you're learning how to hear the difference. You inhale slowly, realizing how much of your life has been shaped by reacting to fear. Fear of failing, fear of disappointing people, fear of being hurt again, fear of not being enough. Courage felt like a distant thing, something reserved for people braver than you. But Jesus doesn't see you the way you see yourself. You've shown courage more times than you realize, he says. Every time you kept going when you wanted to give up, courage. Every time you were kind even when you were hurting, courage. Every time you got honest with yourself, courage. His tone deepens, carrying a gentle authority. And tonight, courage means choosing faith even though the clearing is quiet, even though the path beyond this fire isn't fully visible. You glance at the dark tree line just beyond the glow. It's shadowed and still, the kind of stillness that could feel unsettling if you weren't sitting beside him. Jesus follows your gaze. Courage is not the absence of fear, he says. It's moving with me, even when fear whispers that you can't. The words settle over you like a soft blanket, comforting rather than heavy. You realize you've been waiting for courage to feel like certainty, like intensity, like a surge of bravery. But Jesus is showing you something different. Courage is quiet faith, courage is steady willingness, courage is simple obedience. You don't have to roar, he says gently. You don't have to prove anything. Courage can look like a single step, a whispered yes, a small act of trust. Another spark rises from the fire, drifting upward before fading into the night sky. Jesus watches it and then turns to you again. You fear the unknown, he says, not judging. But the unknown is only frightening when you forget who walks with you. You feel your breath deepen. There's truth in that, truth that calms, truth that challenges. Look around you, Jesus says quietly. The night is still, the fire is steady, you are safe. Courage grows in places like this. Not rushed, not forced, formed. The flames reflect in your eyes as you watch them rise and fall. The warmth settles deeper into your bones. Something inside you begins to stand a little straighter, not outwardly, but inwardly. A subtle shift, a quiet strengthening. Jesus sees it. His smile widens softly. "Good," he murmurs. That's courage beginning to take shape, not loud, not dramatic, just real. You feel a calm determination begin to grow, a readiness you didn't have before. It isn't brittle like old survival mode strength. It's flexible, steady, rooted in trust instead of fear. Hold on to this, Jesus says. This kind of courage will carry you through whatever comes next. The fire hums gently, casting warm light across the clearing. And as your heart settles into this new understanding, courage is a quiet yes, courage is trust in the dark, courage is steady faith, you feel something else rising too. The awareness that if courage is growing in you, then protection is already surrounding you. Jesus sees the shift in your eyes, the way your heart leans toward that next truth, and he nods softly, ready to lead you into the reassurance your spirit has longed for. The fire's glow stretches wider than before, reaching farther into the dark as if it's claiming more space around the clearing. You notice how the shadows draw back, how the night feels less vast, less intimidating. It isn't that the darkness disappears, it simply can't come any closer. Not with him here, not with this warmth holding the boundary. Jesus watches you take it in, his expression calm, assured, the faintest trace of a smile resting at the corner of his mouth. "This," he says softly, "is what it's like to be protected." You sit with that, letting the words settle. You've always associated protection with walls, with armor, with bracing yourself. But here, the protection isn't harsh, it isn't rigid, it's warm, steady, alive, like being wrapped in something unshakable. Jesus shifts, drawing his cloak around himself as he gazes into the trees. "You faced so much alone," he murmurs. "You learned to defend yourself because you thought you had." Chart, he glances at you gently. "And you did well. You survived things that would have crushed others. You feel a familiar pressure in your chest, the old instinct to tighten, to brace." But he doesn't let the moment move toward shame or fear. He continues, "But when you defend yourself out of fear, your heart never rests. When you protect yourself alone, you never feel safe." He shakes his head softly. "You were never meant to carry that burden." The breeze moves through the clearing, cool and soft, but the fire's warmth stays constant, unmoved. Jesus gestures toward the flames. "See how the fire holds its ground? The night presses in, but it doesn't overtake the light. The flame doesn't panic, it doesn't shrink, it simply burns." You watch the fire, mesmerized by how steady it is. No frantic flicker, no retreat, just faithful presence. "That's my protection," Jesus says. "Not loud, not aggressive, just constant, surrounding you even when you can't feel it." You swallow, because you realize how often you've believed the opposite. That safety was something you had to earn or create, something fragile, something temporary. Jesus leans slightly toward you. "You are surrounded," he says, voice low and certain. "Not by fear, not by darkness, by me." The words strike something deep, loosening a knot you didn't realize you had tied around your own heart. Surrounded, safe, held by something bigger than your anxiety, stronger than your memories, steadier than your thoughts. "You don't need to watch every corner," Jesus adds. "You don't need to stay on alert. You don't need to live braced for the next blow." His eyes soften even more. "Your heart can rest. I am your shield." You let your gaze drift upward, toward the sky. Dark, endless, silent. But somehow, it doesn't feel threatening anymore. It feels like a roof stretched above you, peaceful, spacious, secure. Jesus notices your shoulders relaxing. "Good," he says gently. "You're starting to feel what it means to be held, not just helped." A log shifts in the fire, sending a warm burst of sparks upward. They swirl through the air like small guardians before fading into the night. You watch them rise, feeling the same warmth rise in you, a sense of safety you haven't felt in years. "Protection isn't the absence of danger," Jesus explains. "It's my presence in the midst of it." He pauses. "And my presence does not fail." It's not a boast. It's a promise. He continues, there will be battles in your life, moments when fear tries to return, moments when old wounds try to reopen, moments when lies try to creep back in. His expression becomes serious, not heavy, but aware. But you won't face them unarmed, not anymore. You feel that, not fear, but a readiness growing within you, a quiet strength that holds its own weight. I surround you, Jesus says, when you feel weak, when you feel unsure, when your mind runs ahead of your peace, when shadows whisper old stories. He looks at you firmly. My protection is not based on your performance. It is based on my love. A warmth spreads through your chest, deeper than the fire's heat. A warmth rooted in safety, belonging, and being held by something far stronger than anything that ever tried to harm you. You're safe with me, Jesus repeats softly, as if sealing the truth into your spirit. Completely safe. You breathe in deeply, and the air feels different, clearer, steadier. Not because the night changed, but because you did. Being surrounded doesn't remove the world's weight, but it changes how your heart carries it. Jesus watches you as you settle into this new awareness. This safety, he says, nodding toward the darkened tree line, doesn't mean the world has no challenges. It means you won't face any of them alone. The fire glows brighter for just a moment, as though responding to his words. And when the challenges come, Jesus says, his voice strong and sure, you'll learn something else, something important. You turn to him, already sensing the shift in the air. His eyes meet yours, steady with purpose. You'll learn to fight, he murmurs, not with fear, but with truth. The fire steadies again, bright and calm, but something in the air shifts, not in a threatening way, but in a way that signals honesty is about to deepen. Jesus watches you quietly, his expression layered with compassion and firm understanding. You can tell he's preparing to speak about something real, something that touches the deepest parts of a person, the places we usually hide even from ourselves. You know, he begins softly, not every battle you face happens outside of you. You feel those words land immediately. You don't even have to think. You know exactly what he means. The hardest struggles in your life haven't always been circumstances or other people. They've been the battles inside your own mind and heart, the ones that hit you when the world is quiet, the ones that rise out of nowhere. Jesus continues, some wars start in your thoughts, some begin in your fears, some come from wounds you haven't healed yet, and some come from lies that have been whispering to you for years. His voice isn't dramatic. It's honest, gentle, clear. There are battles inside you that no one else sees, he says. Anxiety that tightens your chest for no reason, doubts that question your worth, temptations that pull on your weaknesses, fears that predict disasters that never happen, thoughts that spiral so fast you can barely breathe. You swallow hard. Because yes, those are the real wars, the silent ones, the exhausting ones, the ones you fight behind a calm face. Jesus leans in slightly, his eyes warm with understanding. You've tried to conquer these battles with willpower, he says. You've tried to silence them by yourself. You've tried to outrun them or ignore them. His voice softens. But inner battles don't disappear when you hide from them. They shrink when you face them with me. The fire crackles gently, a soft punctuation to his words. He continues. Anxiety tells you you're alone. I tell you you're held. Fear tells you the worst will happen. I tell you I walk into tomorrow before you do. Shame tells you you're broken. I tell you you're loved. Doubt tells you you're not enough. I tell you I am enough for both of us. Each sentence feels like a shield being shaped piece by piece, molded for your heart. Jesus reaches down and picks up a small branch, tracing a line in the dirt beside you. Truth is your weapon, he says. Not denial, not pretending. Truth. He looks at you again. And truth isn't something you shout at the darkness. It's something you let settle inside you until the darkness shrinks. You watch him draw shapes in the dust, simple, deliberate motions that somehow make the moment feel sacred. When anxiety rises, he says, truth steadies you. When temptation pulls, truth anchors you. When doubt whispers, truth answers. When fear speaks loudly, truth becomes louder. You feel the pull of those words, the way they carve space inside you. You're not powerless in these battles. You're not empty-handed. You're not at the mercy of everything that tries to rise against your peace. Jesus looks up at you with quiet confidence. I don't leave you to fight alone, he says. I give you strength. I give you wisdom. I give you truth that cuts through every lie. Then, softly, he adds, and I give you myself. The fire flares gently as if in agreement. You'll still feel the battles, Jesus says, but they won't defeat you. They won't define you. They won't determine your ending. He rests his hand over his heart. My presence is your armor. When you let me stand with you, the battle shifts. Inner storms lose their power. Temptation loses its grip. Fear loses its voice. You breathe in deeply, and something inside you, something anxious, something afraid, loosens just a little. There's a strength rising in you, Jesus says softly. Not hard strength, not harsh strength, a strong, steady, truth-filled strength. You feel it, that inner steadiness growing, the kind that isn't built on denial but on clarity, on knowing who stands with you, on recognizing the lies and meeting them with truth that's stronger. Jesus looks into the fire, then back at you. And as you learn to fight with truth, he says, your heart begins to change, your focus shifts, your thoughts become clearer, your spirit steadies. His smile grows warm. And something beautiful happens next. You raise your eyes, waiting, feeling the air soften around his words. When inner battle's quiet, Jesus says, your heart finally has room to praise. The fire brightens, a warm, rising glow that feels like the beginning of something light-filled, a shift from struggle to gratitude, from fear to worship, from heaviness to a heart ready to lift. The fire glows with a quiet steadiness, and you notice how its light moves differently now, less like a barrier and more like an invitation. The clearing feels calm, grounded, almost sacred. Jesus sits beside you in that same gentle posture, his presence anchoring the moment. The battles inside your heart have softened, the noise reduced, and something new begins to rise where fear once lived. Jesus looks at you with a warm, knowing expression. Do you hear it? He asks softly. You listen, expecting a sound. Maybe the wind, maybe the rustle of leaves, maybe some distant animal in the woods. But instead, what you hear is something inside yourself. A quiet hum, a soft lift in your chest, a warmth that feels like the beginning of music. I planted that in you, he whispers, long before you knew what battles were. You blink, because you've never thought of praise that way. Something planted, not performed. Something that exists even when everything around you feels dark. Jesus continues, when the heart stops fighting long enough to breathe, it remembers how to sing. The idea almost stuns you. Sing in the middle of uncertainty, in the dark where things still feel incomplete, in the quiet where the future isn't fully clear. But Jesus sees the question written on your face. Praise isn't a reaction to good circumstances, he says. It's a declaration of trust. It's choosing to sing even when the night is still around you. He gestures toward the fire. Look at the flames. They don't wait for sunrise to shine. They burn right here, in the dark. The truth sinks slowly, deeply, settling into the part of you that's been silent for a long time. The battles inside you may not be finished, but something in you is different now, stronger, steadier, freer, and in that freedom is space for a song. Jesus shifts slightly, his voice becoming even softer. Songs born in the dark carry a different power, he says. They're not polished, they're honest. They rise from places where pain and hope sit side by side. You swallow, because you feel it, your own inner song stirring, fragile but real. When you praise me in the daylight, he says, it's beautiful. But when you praise me in the dark, his eyes warm, filled with pride, that is courage. You glance at the fire again, noticing how its glow reflects off the trees, casting gentle shapes that sway like movement in the night. The whole scene feels like a canvas painted with quiet worship. Praise doesn't have to be loud, Jesus adds. Sometimes it's a whispered thank you, sometimes it's a breath lifted upward, sometimes it's the simple decision, to believe I'm still good. He's right. You feel the song inside you, not a melody, not lyrics, but a slow rising of gratitude, like warmth building in your chest. Gratitude that you're still here. Gratitude that you're not carrying everything alone. Gratitude that peace found you. Gratitude that hope is alive again. Let yourself feel it, Jesus encourages. Let your heart rise. You close your eyes, and the quiet becomes full of warmth, full of presence, full of something you can't quite name. It's as if your soul is humming even without sound. You sense Jesus listening, not to your voice, but to your heart. That's it, he whispers. That's your song. The fire crackles in response, small sparks drifting upward like tiny lanterns. Jesus smiles at them. Praise rises just like that, he says. It lifts, even when the night is deep. You open your eyes again, breathing a little deeper, feeling something light and pure settling into your spirit. You realize praise isn't performance. It's connection. It's presence, recognizing presence. It's your heart responding to his nearness. Jesus places a hand over his own heart. Praise shifts the atmosphere, he says, not by changing the night, but by changing you. A warmth spreads through your chest, steady and sure. The kind of warmth that strengthens you from the inside out. That warmth feels like a song shaping itself, soft, sincere, steady. Jesus continues, praise is also a weapon. Darkness hates it because praise reminds your heart who I am. It reminds the enemy who I am. It reminds your fear that it's already been defeated. His eyes hold yours with deep certainty. When you praise me in the dark, chains break, lies lose their power, strongholds weaken. You feel something shift inside, as though a weight you didn't even know you were still carrying loosens. Praise doesn't just lift you, he says, it delivers you. The words settle around you like a rising wind, not forceful, but purposeful, strong, true. The fire flares in a soft burst of spark and light, and Jesus watches it with a small smile, as though seeing something beautiful unfold. You're learning to sing again, he says. And when a heart sings in the dark, deliverance is already beginning. The night around you feels different now, not lighter, but charged with possibility. You can sense where this is going, sense what your heart is being prepared for next. Jesus looks at you with calm certainty, as if he can already see the chains falling away, the breakthrough forming, the freedom rising just ahead, a freedom he's ready to lead you into. The fire glows steady, warm enough to wrap the clearing in a soft halo of light. Something in the atmosphere feels charged, not tense, not alarming, but expectant, like the air is holding its breath for a moment that's been a long time coming. Jesus watches you carefully, his eyes, gentle yet focused, as if he sees something rising from deep within you that you've tried to keep buried for years. You've been in deep places before, he says quietly, places you didn't tell anyone about. Your breath hitches. He's right. There were moments when the world felt too heavy. Times when sadness pressed down like a weight on your chest. Times when you felt emotionally stuck, spiritually numb, or mentally overwhelmed. Those seasons felt like pits, dark, quiet, confusing. Sometimes you climbed a little, only to slip again. Sometimes you tried to pretend it wasn't that bad. Sometimes you simply endured, waiting for life to shift. Jesus looks at you with a tenderness that disarms every instinct you have to hide. You thought those pits defined you, he says. You thought falling meant failing. His voice softens. But I was with you. Every time you slipped, every time you broke, every time you didn't know how to breathe through the weight, I was there. You stare into the fire, watching a small ember break loose and drift upward like a tiny star escaping the earth. Jesus follows your eyes. See how that ember rises? He asks. That's what I do with you. You watch the ember twist upward until it fades into the night sky. It feels like a metaphor too perfect to ignore, light rising from what used to burn, hope rising from the places that once hurt you. Jesus continues, I don't leave you in the depths, I lift you. His words are steady, unwavering, spoken with the certainty of someone who has rescued countless hearts before. Someone who knows exactly how to lift someone without breaking them further. There were moments, he says, when you thought you were too far gone for me to reach. Moments when you believed the darkness inside you was stronger than my love. Moments when you thought you'd stay stuck forever. He lifts his gaze to yours. But there has never been a depth I couldn't reach, not in you, not in anyone. The fire pops softly, sending a small wave of warmth across your skin. You weren't designed to live in pits, he says. You were designed to rise. A heaviness inside you loosens, like an old weight shifting off your heart. You realize how long you've carried the belief that broken seasons defined you, that every mistake, every fall, every dark moment was a mark on your identity. Jesus sees the realization forming. Your past lows, he says gently, do not cancel your calling. They prepare you for it. He pauses, letting the truth settle deep. Because when you've been in the depths and you rise, your story becomes a light to others who are still down there. Your eyes sting, but not from sadness, from recognition. You remember moments when you felt too lost to continue, moments when you begged for relief, moments when emotion threatened to drown you. And yet, here you are, not just surviving, growing, healing, rising. Jesus leans closer, his voice almost a whisper. I didn't just pull you out, he says. I stayed close while you were there. You inhale shakily, the truth hitting deeper than expected. Deliverance wasn't just rescue, it was presence. It was him sitting with you in the painful places, refusing to let you sink beyond his reach. Look at my hands, he says softly. You do. And in this quiet moment, you understand something profound. He lifts you not by force, not by demand, but by love that doesn't let go. Every time you cried in silence, he says, I heard you. Every time you felt alone, he continues, I was closer than your breath. Every time your heart broke, he says gently, I gathered the pieces. And every time you thought you'd fallen too deep, he finishes, I was already there, ready to lift you. The fire brightens, reflecting in his eyes like dawn breaking over the night. You're rising, Jesus says, voice full of assurance, not because you climbed your way out, but because I carried you. You feel it, deep, undeniable, freeing. A sense of being lifted from a place you thought you'd never escape. A sense of breath returning. A sense of hope that doesn't just flicker, but grows strong enough to steady you. Jesus smiles softly. When someone is lifted from darkness, he says, their heart naturally wants to do one thing. You already sense it forming inside you. Something warm, something grateful, something that feels like light expanding in your chest. Your heart begins to thank, he whispers. The night settles around you in gentle warmth, and you feel gratitude rising like a sunrise inside you, quiet at first, but brightening with every breath, guiding you toward what your soul is ready for next. The firelight settles into a warm, golden rhythm, flickering softly like it's breathing with you. The night feels calm, gentler than before, as though something heavy has finally been lifted from inside your chest. You sit there with Jesus, wrapped in the stillness, feeling lighter than you have in a long time. Not empty, just free. Free enough for something new to rise. Jesus watches you quietly, his expression soft and deeply pleased. There's something happening in you, he says gently. Can you feel it? You don't need to think. You nod. Because you can. It's subtle at first, warmth blooming in the space where old weight used to sit. Then it expands, stretching through your chest, rising up toward your throat like sunlight reaching through clouds. Gratitude. Not forced, not performed, not the kind you say out loud because you feel obligated. This kind is different. It's real. It's quiet. It's coming from a healed place inside you. A rising warmth that feels like your heart finally exhaling. Jesus smiles. That's the beginning of thankfulness, he says. Not the kind that ignores pain, but the kind that grows because you've seen my faithfulness. You look around the clearing, the steady fire, the soft night, the protective warmth surrounding you, and it all feels like a gift you didn't realize you needed, a place where gratitude can breathe. You've survived things you never thought you'd make it through, Jesus continues, and you didn't just survive, you're becoming whole. His words deepen the feeling inside you. Gratitude doesn't come from pretending life has always been easy. It comes from recognizing how far you've come, how you've been carried, how you were lifted when you couldn't stand on your own. Jesus glances at the fire. Do you know why gratitude feels warm? He asks. You shake your head. Because it lights your spirit the same way the fire lights this clearing. You watch the flames dance, realizing he's right. Gratitude glows. It doesn't erase the dark, it just makes it less powerful. It gives you a way to see what's good even when life gets complicated. Gratitude rewrites the way you see the world, he says, not by denying reality, but by revealing truth. You let that sink in. A lot of your battles weren't just circumstances, they were perspectives shaped by exhaustion, fear, or disappointment. Gratitude feels like the opposite of those storms, not naive, not unrealistic, just real in a different way, a way that sees God's fingerprints where you once saw only struggle. Jesus leans back slightly, the firelight outlining his silhouette. Start naming the small things, he says, because small gratitude grows into great joy. You take a slow breath. You're grateful you're here, grateful you're breathing, grateful your wounds are healing, grateful for the peace sitting beside you, grateful for the hope rising inside you, grateful for the truth that set you free, grateful for the one who never left, even in the darkest places. A soft pressure gathers in your chest, not sadness but fullness. Your eyes sting, but the feeling is gentle, not overwhelming. Jesus notices. Let it come, he whispers. So you do, one breath at a time, one memory at a time, one realization at a time. Gratitude rises, quiet but powerful, until it becomes something you can feel in your whole body, warm, steady, like the fire reflecting inside your ribcage. You see, Jesus says, voice warm with affection. This is what happens when light enters the heart. Gratitude opens doors that pain once closed. He watches you carefully. A grateful heart sees blessing where a wounded heart saw nothing. It sees beauty where you once saw emptiness. It sees possibility where you once saw endings. You look into his eyes, and they reflect the fire, glowing, unwavering. Gratitude prepares you, Jesus says. It softens you. It opens your spirit. It clears the fog from your mind. He pauses, letting the quiet deepen. When your heart is grateful, he says, you become ready for wisdom. The fire crackles softly, as if acknowledging his words. Wisdom, the next step. Not just knowing facts or lessons, but understanding, clarity, discernment, seeing life with a renewed mind and a steady spirit. Jesus watches the embers swirl upward. Thankfulness makes room, he says. Room for growth, room for insight, room for me to speak deeper things. You exhale slowly, feeling that room inside you widen like a door gently opening. Gratitude has softened the ground of your heart, and now something deeper is ready to be planted. And Jesus, with that same calm presence, is already preparing to lead you into the wisdom your spirit is ready to receive next. The fire crackles softly, sending a trail of gentle sparks upward into the dark sky. They drift slowly, lazily, like thoughts rising from a quiet mind, steady, unhurried, unforced. You sit there beside Jesus, still feeling the warmth of gratitude lingering in your chest. It's settled into something peaceful now, something grounded, like fertile soil ready for seeds to be planted. Jesus watches the flames for a long moment before speaking, his voice low and thoughtful. A grateful heart, he says, is a listening heart. You tilt your head slightly, feeling the truth of those words. Gratitude has quieted something inside you, softened places that used to feel tight or resistant. And in that quietness, you can feel a readiness, like your spirit has become still enough to hear things it couldn't before. Wisdom is not loud, Jesus continues. It doesn't shout over fear or force its way through chaos. Wisdom comes to those who slow down enough to notice it. He reaches for a small stick and draws a smooth line in the dirt in front of you. People search for wisdom everywhere, books, opinions, noise, achievements, but the deepest wisdom, he taps the line lightly, the wisdom that anchors the soul, is found here in stillness. You breathe deeply. You've always assumed wisdom came from experience, from learning, from trial and error. But Jesus speaks of it as something different, something given, something revealed, something that flows naturally when the heart is quiet enough to receive it. Do you know why I speak in whispers? He asks gently. Because wisdom grows in places where peace already lives. You sit with that, feeling its depth. Earlier in your life, wisdom felt distant, like clarity only arrived after everything went wrong. But now, sitting here with him, you realize wisdom was never meant to be a last resort. It was meant to be a guiding light. Jesus continues, wisdom doesn't tell you everything. It teaches you how to walk with me, how to discern what is true, how to recognize my voice even when the world is loud. The flames glow brighter for a moment, casting warm light across his peaceful expression. Wisdom is seeing beyond the moment, Jesus says. It's understanding that every season has purpose, even the ones that hurt you, even the ones that confused you. You swallow gently, remembering moments when you questioned everything, your path, your strength, your faith, yourself. Those memories were heavy. They shaped you. Yet in this moment, with his words soaking into your heart, you begin to see them differently, as chapters that made room for the growth happening now. Jesus looks at you with soft eyes. Wisdom teaches you what pain tried to hide from you. You blink. What do you mean? He smiles gently. Pain makes you look inward. Wisdom makes you look upward. You let the distinction settle. Pain narrows your vision. Wisdom opens it. Pain focuses on the hurt. Wisdom reveals the deeper lessons, the hidden strengths, the truth buried beneath the discomfort. Jesus adds, wisdom is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of insight. A quiet breeze moves through the clearing, rustling the leaves but leaving the fire untouched. Jesus tilts his head, listening to the sound. Life will not always feel like this moment, he says. There will be decisions, crossroads, unknowns. He looks back at you with calm certainty. And when those days come, wisdom will speak to you, not with pressure, but with peace. You feel that deep in your spirit. Wisdom won't be frantic. It won't push. It will guide, steady, clarify. Wisdom reminds you of what is true, Jesus says. Not what you fear, not what others assume, not what your past tries to repeat, but what I have spoken over you. You watch the firelight reflect in his eyes, steady and bright. His presence itself feels like the source of wisdom, calm, grounded, unwavering. Jesus continues, wisdom teaches you to pause before reacting, to listen before assuming, to breathe before choosing, and to bring every thought into my light. He smiles softly. This is how you stay anchored. This is how you walk with confidence. You feel your heart settle, the truth rooting itself deeper with every word. Wisdom doesn't remove the challenges ahead. It prepares you for them. It turns confusion into clarity, fear into understanding, silence into revelation. Then Jesus adds something with a tone so gentle it almost feels like a caress on your spirit. Wisdom also reminds you of my promises. Your breath catches, because something inside you knows this is important, like a door being unlocked. Jesus nods slowly, sensing your attention sharpen. My promises are not fragile. They are not temporary. They do not depend on circumstances. They stand even when everything else shakes. The fire glows brighter again, as though responding to his words, and you feel it, your heart leaning, stretching toward the next truth he's preparing to reveal. Jesus watches you with warmth. You've learned peace, trust, courage, hope, gratitude, and now wisdom. He pauses, letting the moment settle. Next, he says softly, eyes warm with certainty, you'll learn to rest your heart in my promises. The night holds steady as your spirit opens, ready to step into the assurance Jesus has been leading you toward all along. The fire burns low and steady, its glow richer now, more golden, more rooted. It feels less like a flame dancing in the night and more like a living reminder of something constant. Jesus sits with you in that warm circle of light, and there's a quiet shift in his presence, something firm, something sure, something that feels like the earth itself taking a deep breath. He looks at you with calm, unwavering eyes. My promises, he says softly, are the foundation beneath everything you've learned so far. You feel those words settle into your chest like weight and comfort at the same time. Promises. Not vague hopes, not nice thoughts, not possibilities. Promises, the kind that don't move, don't fade, don't break. Jesus continues, you've walked through peace, truth, gratitude, hope, courage, wisdom, but all of it rests on what I have spoken. If my promises were fragile, everything else would crumble. He shakes his head gently. But they're not fragile. They're eternal. You watch the fire as he speaks, and he seems to see something symbolic in the flickering light. See these flames? He says, nodding toward them. They burn because the logs beneath them hold steady. Without something solid underneath, the fire fades. He places his hand near the warmth. My promises are the logs. They feed the flame inside you. You look at the fire differently now. More than warmth, more than comfort. It's a reflection of something deeper, your spirit being fueled by truths that do not change. Jesus lifts his eyes to you. You've believed lies before, he says gently. From others, from the world, from your own fears. His tone is tender, not condemning. But lies burn out. They don't last. My promises remain. A breeze moves through the clearing, but the fire doesn't weaken. It crackles in calm defiance. My promises don't adjust to your emotions, he says. They don't weaken when you feel weak. They don't disappear when you feel lost. His voice becomes warm with certainty. They stand, because I stand. You feel that settle inside you like a pillar. Something strong, something sure. Then Jesus begins to speak truths you've heard before, but never this intimately. I promised to never leave you. A pause, deep and steady. And I haven't. I promised to be your refuge. And I am. I promised to give you rest. And you're learning how to receive it. I promised to guide you. And you've already followed my light. Another ember snaps in the fire, floating upward like a little messenger. I promised to strengthen you. And you are stronger than you were before. I promised to heal your heart. His eyes soften. And you're being healed right now. Each promise lands like a steady heartbeat against your ribs. Each one settles into places where fear used to live. Jesus continues, my promises are not just words. They are reality waiting to unfold. They are truth anchored in eternity. They are gifts for you to stand on when the world shakes. You take a long breath, feeling the quiet certainty filling you, the kind of certainty that doesn't shout, the kind that roots you. Promises don't fail, Jesus says, but people often stop remembering them. He says it with gentle honesty, not accusation. It's true. You've faced moments where you forgot what he said, moments when circumstances felt louder than truth, moments when you tried to stand on your own strength instead of the promises meant to hold you up. That's why I bring you back to them, Jesus continues, over and over, again and again, until they're written on your heart. You glance at the fire. Every log beneath the flames seems symbolic now, a reminder of truths he placed under your life long before you even knew how to trust them. Every promise, Jesus says, is a place where your spirit can rest. You close your eyes for a moment and let those words wash over you. Rest. Resting in promises instead of fears. Resting in truth instead of uncertainty. When you open your eyes again, Jesus is studying your face with a small, satisfied smile. You're learning to stand on what's firm, he murmurs. And when you build your life on what doesn't fail, you stop rushing. You stop panicking. You stop fearing delays. His voice settles into a softer tone, because when you trust my promises, you learn something else, something your heart has needed for a long time. You look at him, already sensing where he's leading. Patience, he says gently, the kind born from knowing I always keep my word. The fire glows steady, unhurried, peaceful, and deep in your spirit, something begins to stretch toward the quiet strength of patience he's about to teach you next. The fire has settled into a deep, glowing bed of embers now, warm, steady, unhurried. It's no longer reaching upward with tall flames. Instead, it radiates a calm heat that spreads gently across the clearing. It feels different, almost symbolic, like the kind of warmth that comes after you've stopped rushing, the kind that comes when you finally stop fighting time. Jesus watches the embers with a peaceful expression, his posture relaxed, his presence grounded. When he speaks, his voice matches the glow, low, patient, unforced. You've walked with me through so much, he says softly, and now you've reached something most people struggle with more than anything else. You know even before he says it. Waiting. The word lands quietly, but it carries weight. You feel something tighten slightly inside you, because waiting has always felt like pressure, like uncertainty, like standing in a hallway with too many closed doors. Jesus turns toward you, eyes gentle. You've learned to trust my promises, he says, but trust also means waiting without fear. You breathe slowly, the truth resonating deeper than you expected. You've waited before, yes, but usually with tension, with anxiety, with constant questioning. Is it coming? Am I doing something wrong? Why hasn't it happened yet? Did I misunderstand? Jesus reads those thoughts easily. Waiting feels painful when you think I'm distant, he says. But I've never been distant, not once. The embers glow brighter for a moment, sending up a soft wave of heat. Waiting isn't punishment, Jesus continues. It's preparation. You let that sink in. How many times did you assume delays meant denial? How many nights did you worry that silence meant abandonment? How many moments did you think something was wrong with you because a prayer hadn't been answered yet? Jesus' voice becomes even gentler. You weren't being denied. You were being shaped. He leans forward slightly, hands resting loosely on his knees. Waiting is where roots grow. It's where trust becomes more than a word. It's where faith stretches from something small into something strong. You feel that truth ripple through your chest, like something inside you recognizing itself for the first time. Jesus goes on. Waiting teaches you to breathe in moments where your instincts want you to panic. Waiting teaches you to hold my promises even when you don't see movement yet. Waiting teaches your heart that my timing is not late, it's perfect. You watch a single ember break away and float upward like a tiny glowing seed heading toward the night sky. My timing is never random, he says. Every delay has purpose. Every pause has wisdom hidden inside it. He looks at you knowingly. I haven't forgotten anything you've prayed for. I haven't ignored a single tear you cried. And I haven't abandoned one detail of the story I'm writing with your life. You feel your chest loosen. Not because waiting suddenly feels easy, but because it doesn't feel lonely anymore. Jesus continues, you think nothing is happening while you wait, but waiting is when I do my deepest work. His tone shifts, filled with quiet strength. Waiting is when I heal hidden wounds, when I strengthen weak places, when I build character, endurance, clarity, when I align situations behind the scenes that you cannot see. You watch the embers pulse softly, almost like a heartbeat. Waiting is not the absence of movement, he says. It is movement beneath the surface. The words reach something inside you, something tired, something weary, something that's been clutching impatience like a protective shield. It's okay, Jesus adds gently. You don't need to rush anymore. Those simple words almost undo you, because you realize how much of your life you've spent rushing to grow, rushing to heal, rushing to prove, rushing to fix. You've mistaken motion for progress. You've mistaken delay for danger. You've mistaken silence for rejection. Jesus reaches out, not touching you, but letting his presence press warm and steady around your spirit. You are safe to wait, he says, because you're not waiting alone. You're waiting with me. You breathe out slowly, and for the first time, waiting doesn't feel like a void. It feels like a place with purpose, a place where Jesus sits with you, a place where things are being built, not withheld. Waiting without fear doesn't mean you feel nothing, he explains. It means you trust me more than the timeline. Another ember drifts upward, glowing against the dark like a small reminder that movement always happens, even when the world looks still. Jesus' expression softens, warm with something like anticipation. And when you wait with me, he says, your heart becomes ready for something you couldn't have received before. You feel it, the quiet stirring of something new, something rising, something beginning beneath the surface. Jesus sees that shifting inside you and smiles gently. Waiting prepares you, he says, and what waiting prepares, I renew. The embers glow brighter, reflecting the truth of his words, and you feel the quiet pull toward the next part of the journey, where renewal begins to unfold inside the places that were once weary and worn. The embers glow deeper now, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The clearing feels warm, almost brighter than before, though the night hasn't changed. Something else has, something inside you. The heaviness that once lived in your chest has thinned. The worries that once crowded your mind have softened. There's room inside you now, room where peace has settled, where gratitude breathes, where trust is rooted. Jesus sees it too. He watches you with a gentle smile, the kind that says, He's been leading you to this moment all along. Do you feel it? He asks quietly. You nod, because you don't just feel it, you sense it. A quiet renewal, a soft awakening, a fresh strength rising from the places that once felt worn down. Jesus turns his palms toward the fire, letting the warmth wrap around his fingers. Renewal doesn't happen in a rush, he says. It happens gently, quietly, the way morning light melts the darkness, the way spring pushes its way through cold ground. You breathe in slowly, realizing how true that is. Renewal isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It's the moment you realize you can breathe again, the moment something that once hurt no longer defines you, the moment your heart opens to hope without fear of breaking. Jesus continues, You've carried exhaustion for a long time, emotional, spiritual, even physical. You've pushed yourself through seasons that drained you. You've survived on empty. He glances at you with soft compassion. But you're not empty now. You feel that, deep and clear. There is warmth inside you, a fire that isn't frantic but steady, a flame that feels tended, protected. This, Jesus says, motioning toward the quiet firelight inside you, is renewal. A soul made new, not replaced, restored. The difference matters. Renewal doesn't erase who you are. It makes you whole again, strong again, clear again. He goes on. You are not who you were when you first sat down here. You've laid down the weight you carried. You've surrendered your burdens. You've opened your hands. You've learned to listen. You've learned to trust. His voice softens further. And now, you are being made new. You close your eyes and let the truth settle. The wounds that once throbbed feel quieter. The confusion that once clouded you feels lighter. The darkness that once felt suffocating doesn't feel powerful anymore. Renewal is slower than rescue, but deeper. Renewal means you aren't just saved, you're restored to who you were always meant to be. Jesus watches the fire shift into a richer glow. Renewal is like tending a flame, he explains. You don't force it, you feed it, you protect it, you stay close to the one who lights it. You feel his words reach deep inside you, stirring places you haven't felt alive in years. Places that once felt numb now feel warm. Places that once felt empty now feel full. Places that once felt broken now feel mended. You've been weary, Jesus says softly, but I am restoring your strength. A long breath escapes you, part relief, part wonder. You didn't realize how tired you were until rest began healing you from the inside out. Jesus adds, renewal is not just for your heart. It's for your mind, your soul, your purpose. It's for the way you see yourself and the way you walk. He studies you for a moment, seeing everything, every scar, every fear, every moment of endurance. But his eyes don't hold sorrow. They hold joy, joy for who you're becoming. I'm giving you clarity again, he says. You're seeing yourself the way I see you, beloved, capable, chosen, whole. The clearing feels brighter, like the renewal inside you is shifting the atmosphere around you too. Jesus leans in slightly. Renewal also prepares you, he says. It strengthens your spirit for what comes next. You feel curiosity rise. What comes next? His smile grows, gentle, knowing, a hint of something purposeful behind it. Renewal leads somewhere, he says. It doesn't exist for comfort alone. It exists to empower you to live differently. He pauses, letting the warmth of the moment settle around you like a soft cloak. When a soul is made new, he continues, it becomes ready for something beautiful, obedience. Not the kind born from fear, but the kind born from love. The word doesn't feel heavy the way it once might have. It feels steady, alive, rooted in trust rather than pressure. Obedience, Jesus says, is how renewal becomes action. It's how your healing becomes visible. It's how your life begins to reflect the transformation happening inside you. The fire glows steady, almost symbolic, light responding to truth. Jesus looks at you, eyes warm and sure. Your heart is ready, he says, and when your heart is ready, obedience becomes joy. You feel that truth settling inside you, gentle and certain, awakening something deep, a willingness to follow him into whatever comes next. The fire burns with a steady confidence now, the kind that doesn't waver with every breeze. It glows warm across your face, and something inside you mirrors that glow, an inner steadiness you didn't have before. Renewal has settled deep into your spirit, sweeping away the fog that once clouded your thoughts. Now your heart feels clearer, grounded, ready. Jesus watches you quietly, his expression soft with satisfaction, as if he can see the shift in you more clearly than you can. When he speaks, his voice is warm, unhurried, but full of certainty. This is where following begins, he says. Not in pressure, not in fear, but in a heart made new. You absorb his words slowly. Following him has always seemed noble, important, but part of you feared it. You feared failing him. You feared messing up. You feared being unworthy, unprepared, or not strong enough. But sitting here with him now, those fears feel thinner than they used to. Not gone entirely, but no longer in control. Jesus senses the change. I don't ask you to follow me with hesitation, he says gently. I ask you to follow me with trust. He rests his hands loosely over his knees, posture calm and open. Obedience isn't about perfection. It's about willingness. A heart that says, where you lead, I'll go, even if I don't understand yet. You take a breath. That kind of obedience doesn't feel scary. It feels freeing, like you don't have to carry every answer, every outcome, every detail. You only have to take the step he sets before you. Jesus nods as if hearing the quiet resolve forming inside you. Obedience becomes heavy when you think it depends on your strength, he says. But when obedience flows from love, it becomes joy. The fire crackles gently, sending a small spark upward. Jesus watches it drift. When the heart is healed and made whole, following me becomes natural, he says. Not forced, not pressured, just the next right thing. You feel that. Renewal cleaned out room inside you, room that's now filled with trust, hope, peace. And from that place, obedience doesn't sound like sacrifice. It sounds like partnership. Jesus continues, there will be moments when I ask you to step where the path isn't visible yet. Moments when I'll lead you away from what feels familiar. Moments when you'll feel a tug toward something that scares you just a little. His eyes soften, but those steps will always lead you into life. A deep quiet settles between you, but it isn't empty. It's full of meaning, full of assurance. You can feel it. The safety of letting him lead, the peace of not having to control everything. Jesus leans forward slightly. You've already obeyed in ways you didn't realize, he says. Every moment you chose healing, every burden you surrendered, every lie you replaced with truth, every tear you let fall in my presence, every step you took toward wholeness, that was obedience. You let the truth wash over you. You've been following him already, without even knowing it, in small ways that felt insignificant, in moments where you showed up even when wounded, in nights where you whispered prayers through exhaustion. You've been walking with me a long time, Jesus says. Now you'll begin to walk after me with a heart that trusts where I'm leading. The flames warm your hands, but the warmth inside your chest burns brighter. Something is shifting, opening, settling into place like a piece of your spirit clicking into alignment. Jesus smiles softly, proudly. When you follow without hesitation, he says, your life becomes a light for others. Your obedience becomes an invitation. Your steps become hope for someone still learning how to walk. You feel that truth ripple through you. Your life isn't just being healed for your own sake. It's being shaped for others too. Jesus continues, obedience expands your heart. It teaches you to care, to notice, to move with compassion. Because when you walk with me, you begin to see people the way I see them. His words shift something deep, awakening a new tenderness, a new awareness. Following me always leads to love, he says. Always. You can sense it now, the next part of the journey forming like dawn on the horizon. The renewed heart he's given you isn't meant to stay still. It's meant to spill outward, touching others, lifting others, carrying warmth into places that feel cold. Jesus looks at you gently. Your heart is ready, he whispers. And when a heart is ready, compassion begins to grow. The fire glows warm across your face, and you feel it. A soft, steady opening inside you, preparing to see others through his eyes, to love without fear, to step into a new chapter where your healing becomes a source of compassion for those around you. The fire's heat feels different now, less like warmth meant only for you, and more like warmth that could easily stretch outward, enough for many to gather around. You notice that shift deep inside yourself as well. Renewal has settled in, obedience is taking root, and now something gentler begins to rise. Something that feels like your heart leaning forward instead of inward. Jesus watches you with a quiet smile, his eyes carrying a tenderness that feels almost weightless. You feel it, don't you? He asks softly. You nod, because it's unmistakable. A warmth that isn't just comfort, it's movement, a stirring, a pull toward others you haven't even met, toward faces you don't know, burdens you haven't heard, stories you've never lived, but somehow your spirit already cares. That, Jesus says gently, is compassion. The word settles into the air with gentle gravity. Compassion, real compassion, isn't pity. It isn't sympathy from a distance. It's something deeper, something alive, something that breathes inside you because his heart beats inside you. Jesus turns his eyes toward the fire, watching the embers glow as though they're telling their own quiet story. My compassion is not an emotion, he says. It's a movement. It reaches, it touches, it notices, it heals. He looks back at you, and now it's beginning to move through you. You feel that truth echo deep in your chest. Renewal has softened the walls you once built. Wisdom has cleared your vision. Trust has steadied your steps. And now, with nothing blocking your heart, compassion flows through the spaces where hurt used to live. Jesus continues, you've been focused inward for a long time. You needed to be. Healing requires attention. Renewal requires intention. He tilts his head slightly. But healed hearts don't stay turned inward. They turn outward. They begin to see. You breathe, sensing clarity rising like warm light. Compassion isn't something you add to your life. It's the natural outpouring of a heart that's been healed, held, and transformed. Jesus speaks again, tone soft as the breeze. You will begin to notice people you once overlooked. You will hear pain you used to walk past. He pauses, eyes warm. You will feel love for people you've never spoken to. The fire crackles gently as if agreeing. When my compassion grows in you, Jesus says, you no longer see people by what they show. You see them by what they hide. You feel the weight they carry even when they smile, and your heart responds, not with judgment, but with love. Something in you stirs deeply, like your spirit widening, your capacity stretching. Not suddenly, not forcefully, just naturally, like a heart long closed, finally opening windows to let fresh air in. Jesus watches you quietly, as though he's witnessing a garden blooming inside you. Compassion is not weakness, he says. It's strength of the purest kind. It pushes past comfort. It steps into someone else's pain with gentleness. It says, you don't have to walk alone. You realize something. Compassion bridges the space between his presence and the world around you. It becomes the living expression of everything he's been doing in your heart. Jesus continues, many people avoid compassion because it costs something. Time, attention, vulnerability. He shakes his head lightly. But compassion rooted in me does not drain you. It empowers you. You feel the truth of that, because the compassion rising inside you doesn't feel heavy. It feels light. It feels like your heart finally stretching into its purpose. Compassion moves the heart, Jesus says. It moves you closer to me. It moves you closer to others. It moves you toward the places where love is needed most. You watch the fire, imagining others sitting around it, people carrying their own weights, their own wounds, their own storms, and you feel something unexpected, not fear, not overwhelm, but readiness. Jesus notices. His smile deepens. This fire is not just for you anymore, he says softly. It's becoming communal warmth, a place others can rest, a place where you will carry my compassion into their stories. Your heart swells at the thought, not because you feel capable, but because you feel willing. That's all compassion needs, Jesus says. A willing heart. I'll do the rest. You breathe out slowly, letting that truth settle like warm embers inside your ribs. The idea of reaching others, comforting others, loving others. It once felt distant and impossible. Now, it feels like the most natural next step. Jesus leans back slightly, eyes shining with gentle purpose. Compassion prepares you for something greater, he says. It doesn't end with feeling. It leads to action. Your pulse steadies. You sense what he's hinting toward even before he says it. Compassion is the spark, but what comes next is movement. Jesus nods softly, affirming your unspoken realization. Compassion grows into service. The words settle with quiet clarity, like stones placed gently into the foundation of your spirit. You've received so much from me, he says, and soon you will begin to pour out, not from pressure, not from obligation, but from overflow. The fire flickers as if opening a doorway into the next chapter of your journey. A chapter where compassion becomes hands, kindness becomes action, and your renewed heart steps into serving others with the same love Jesus has poured into you. The fire glows with a soft, steady warmth, no longer just a light for your own healing, but a light you can imagine others gathering around. Compassion has already begun reshaping the way you see the world, awakening new tenderness in places that once felt guarded. Now, as you sit beside Jesus, that quiet stirring inside you grows into something clearer, something active. Jesus watches you with a knowing look, a gentle smile lifting the corners of his mouth. Compassion awakens the heart, he says softly, but service moves the heart. The words land with a kind of clarity that feels like both invitation and purpose. You can feel your spirit, responding, stretching forward as though it already knows where this is headed. You weren't made to hold love only for yourself, Jesus continues. You were made to pour it out, to let it flow through you into places that have grown cold or forgotten, to become the warmth someone else needs when their night is too dark to stand alone. You look into the fire, imagining how easily its warmth spreads. No effort, no struggle. Fire gives simply because giving is in its nature. You begin to understand. Service isn't performance, it's overflow. Jesus senses the realization forming in your heart. Service begins when you stop asking, "What do I have?" and start asking, "Who can I love?" You breathe in deeply. Service has always seemed intimidating, like responsibility, like burden, like something reserved for people holier, stronger, or more qualified than you. But now, sitting in this quiet clearing with him, the word takes on a different shape. It feels lighter, warmer, natural. "What if I don't know where to start?" you ask quietly. Jesus smiles gently. You start where you are. He gestures to the ground around you, the people close to you, the ones who cross your path, the ones whose burdens you notice, the ones I place on your heart. You realize he's not asking you to fix the world. He's asking you to love the person in front of you, to see, to notice, to care. Service is not measured in size, Jesus says. It's measured in sincerity. He lets the words settle, then adds, "A small act of love done with me becomes a great act of heaven on earth." Your shoulders relax as the weight you used to fear melts into something meaningful, something possible. Service doesn't have to be loud or impressive. It can be a gentle word, a listening ear, a small kindness, a moment of patience, a prayer whispered when no one sees. Open hands, Jesus says, lifting his palms upward, are hands that heal, carry, comfort, lift, and encourage. Open hands don't cling to what they have. They share it freely. You watch his hands, strong, gentle, steady. The same hands that healed, lifted, fed, restored, and embraced countless people. The same hands that carried crosses and wiped tears and welcomed the broken. These hands serve, he says softly. And now, yours will too. A quiet warmth spreads through your chest, and you feel it. A readiness to give, to step into someone else's story with love rather than fear. You won't serve from emptiness, Jesus assures. You'll serve from overflow, Everything I've poured into you, peace, comfort, truth, joy, renewal, will pour out of you. He pauses, then adds something deeper, something weightier in the most beautiful way. Service will stretch you. It will shape you. It will grow you. And because it grows you so, it won't always be easy. You nod slowly, understanding more than you expected. Service isn't just a gift. It's also refinement. A way for your heart to expand, to deepen, to mature. Jesus watches the fire for a moment before continuing. Some days you'll feel full. Other days you'll feel tired. Some acts of love will be simple. Others will cost you, and that's okay. His voice softens even more. Service is not about never growing weary. It's about choosing love even when weariness whispers. The fire flickers gently, reflecting the truth in his words. Service is beautiful, meaningful, sacred, but it also asks something of you. It asks for consistency, endurance, faithfulness when excitement fades. But you won't serve alone, Jesus says firmly. I will strengthen you, I will steady you, I will refill you. His presence feels like a promise wrapped in warmth. And as you serve, he adds, you will learn something powerful. Something every servant of mine discovers sooner or later. You lift your eyes to him, sensing his tone shift into something purposeful. Love requires perseverance, he says. Real love stays, returns, endures. The fire hums quietly, its glow deepening as though preparing the space for what comes next. Service shapes perseverance, Jesus continues, and perseverance shapes character. A character anchored in me. You feel your spirit steady, ready for the next truth he's guiding you toward. Because the journey of service doesn't end with the desire to love others. It continues with the strength to keep loving, even when the path becomes long. The fire has burned long into the night now, steady, unwavering, consistent. It doesn't flare wildly or fight for attention, it simply endures. Its glow remains faithful, even as the air grows cooler and the darkness deepens around the clearing. You watch its quiet persistence, and something inside you recognizes its message instinctively. Jesus sits beside you, his gaze resting on the flames with a calm, reflective tenderness. Do you see it? He asks softly. You nod before you even know the answer in words. The fire hasn't grown weaker, it hasn't flickered out, it hasn't rushed, it has simply remained. Jesus turns his eyes to you, the warmth of the fire reflecting in his expression. This is perseverance, he says. Not noise, not struggle, not frantic effort, just steady, faithful endurance. You take in the rhythm of the embers, slow, pulsing, certain. It feels like a lesson written in light. Staying the course, Jesus continues, doesn't mean you feel strong every moment. It means you stay connected to the one who strengthens you. His words settle deeply because you know the feeling of trying to persevere on your own, pushing through exhaustion, forcing yourself forward, pretending you're fine. That's not what he's talking about. What he's describing feels different, gentler, more sustainable. Jesus gently brushes some ash away from a glowing ember. Perseverance isn't stubbornness, he says. It's obedience guarded by love and fueled by grace. That truth resonates like a quiet chord. You've always imagined perseverance as this huge, intense effort, gritting your teeth, pushing through pain, never stopping. But Jesus is describing something far more peaceful, something steady, something deeply rooted. He continues, perseverance grows when your heart stays close to mine, when you keep walking even on slow days, when you keep loving even when it's costly, when you keep serving even when it's unnoticed. You look at him, and he holds your gaze with softness and strength at the same time. I'm not asking you to run, he says. I'm asking you to remain faithful. Those words ease something inside you, like a pressure you didn't realize you were carrying, finally loosening its grip. You don't need to sprint. You don't need to prove endurance. You only need to keep walking with him. Perseverance is not measured by speed, Jesus adds. It's measured by consistency. He gestures to the fire again. These embers burn because the foundation beneath them is steady. Your perseverance will grow the same way, rooted in my presence, fed by my peace. You take a slow breath, letting that truth fill the spaces where anxiety once lived. Jesus sees it. There will be moments, he says quietly, when you will feel tired, when you'll wonder if your effort matters, when you'll feel unseen or unappreciated. He pauses, compassion rising in his eyes. In those moments, remember that I see you. I know your effort. I know your heart. The fire releases a soft crackle, almost like a note of agreement. You don't persevere to impress me, Jesus says. You persevere because you trust me. You feel the distinction like a shifting weight. Perseverance used to feel like striving, until you burned out. But Jesus is showing you that real endurance is born from reliance, not pressure. Staying the course, he continues, means remembering why you started. It means believing that the seeds you plant will grow, even when you don't see them yet. It means choosing love again and again. His voice gentles even further. Perseverance is love with endurance. You sit in the quiet with that phrase echoing through your spirit. Love with endurance. That feels true. That feels like him. That feels like the fire. Steady, warm, unwavering. Jesus leans back, watching the night sky. You will have days when you feel strong, he says, and days when you feel fragile. His tone deepens with reassurance. Both kinds of days are holy when you walk them with me. You feel something expand inside your chest, a slow, steady confidence that wasn't there before. The kind that comes not from your own strength, but from the one sitting beside you. Jesus looks at you again, his face illuminated by the soft red-orange glow of the embers. Perseverance produces something, he says, something beautiful, something powerful, something that changes the way you walk through the world. You listen closely as he speaks the next words with warmth and certainty. Perseverance blossoms into joy. The fire seems to brighten at the sound of that word. Joy, not momentary happiness, not fleeting excitement, but deep, abiding joy. Joy that grows from endurance, from trust, from staying the course with him through every season. Jesus smiles, seeing the light awaken in your eyes. Joy awaits you, he says gently. Real joy, joy that cannot be shaken. The embers glow steady, warm, alive, and your spirit begins to glow with them, ready for the joy he's leading you into next. The embers shift softly, glowing with a radiant warmth that seems to brighten the entire clearing. It's subtle at first, just a deeper orange, a richer glow, but then it spreads, illuminating the space around you with a gentle brilliance. The light feels different from every chapter before this one. It's warmer, softer, brighter, almost like morning light daring to touch the edges of a long night. Jesus watches the glow rise with a quiet, knowing smile. Do you feel that? He asks softly. And you do. It's unmistakable. A warmth that isn't coming only from the fire, but from inside you. It rises like dawn, joy, not loud, not frantic, not the quick happiness the world offers, the kind that fades as soon as something goes wrong. This joy is deeper, rooted, alive. Jesus turns toward you, his expression calm but filled with the gentle delight of someone who truly enjoys seeing you come alive. Joy isn't forced, he says. It's born from endurance, from trust, from staying close to me through both the heavy and the gentle nights. You think back on the journey of these past hours. Fear quieted, wounds healed, hope rekindled, strength rebuilt, compassion awakened. Every piece of the path has been quietly shaping you, carving space inside your heart for something beautiful to grow. And now, it's blooming. Jesus continues, joy comes when your heart finally understands that you are safe with me, not just for the moment, forever. Something inside you glows at those words, the kind of glow that spreads, the kind that warms, the kind that fills. This joy you feel, Jesus says, is not a reward, it's a result. You lift your eyes to him, and he smiles at the recognition forming in your spirit. It's the result of letting go, he says, the result of trusting me when you didn't see the whole path, the result of choosing peace when fear wanted control, the result of staying when you wanted to run, the result of sitting with me long enough for your heart to soften and widen. His words strike something deep. and the joy inside you rises even brighter, gentle, flowing, soft as the firelight on his face. Joy is what happens, Jesus says, when my presence becomes your home. You breathe in deeply, and the air itself feels lighter. The night feels friendlier. Your body feels less heavy. Your spirit feels like it's lifting, expanding, opening wider than you thought possible. Jesus notices the shift and laughs softly, the kind of laugh that sounds like kindness itself. There it is, he says, a heart learning to breathe again. The joy in you doesn't feel fragile, it feels steady. It feels like something that won't shatter at the first sign of trouble. It feels like it comes from a source that cannot run dry. It overflows, Jesus murmurs, not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally letting me fill you. And he's right. You're not gripping anything. You're not striving. You're not performing. You're simply receiving. The fire flickers, and the clearing around you shifts into a scene bathed in warm light, like dawn breaking even though the sky is still dark. It's a reflection of what's happening inside you, night illuminated from the inside out. You've walked through the shadows, Jesus says, and now the light inside you is growing stronger than the darkness around you. You feel joy rise again, this time not as a surge but as a steady river. It flows, it softens, it expands, it touches places inside you thought would stay cold forever. Jesus tilts his head slightly. This joy is not meant to stay contained, he says gently. It's meant to pour into every part of your life, into your choices, into your relationships, into the way you see the world. A warmth spreads across your chest at the thought of it, joy shaping your days instead of fear, instead of stress, instead of old wounds that once dictated how you moved. Joy is strength, Jesus says. Joy is clarity. Joy is freedom. You let those truths settle. Joy isn't extra, it's necessary. It doesn't distract you from life. It helps you live it deeply, honestly, fully. Jesus turns his gaze back to the fire, and the glow illuminates his profile in soft gold. And do you know what joy does next? He asks quietly. You wait, sensing the shift, sensing that he's about to guide you deeper. Joy, Jesus says, reveals where you truly belong. You feel those words resonate through your spirit with undeniable certainty. Belonging. A place for your heart. A place where you fit, where you're known, where you're safe. Jesus looks at you with warmth that feels like an embrace. Joy always leads you home, he whispers, and your spirit leans forward, already sensing that the next part of the journey will unwrap something even more precious, the deep, unshakable truth that you belong. The fire glows warmer than ever, casting a soft amber circle across the clearing, as if the night itself is leaning closer, comforted by the same presence that comforts you. The joy rising. Inside you hasn't faded. Instead, it's settled into something deeper, something steady, something that feels almost like the heartbeat of a home you didn't know you'd been missing. Jesus sits beside you, watching the quiet clearing as though he sees more than trees and shadows, like he sees the future written in the embers. You're beginning to understand, he says softly. Joy was never meant to be carried alone. You pause, letting that truth settle, because something in you recognizes it instantly. Joy expands, joy multiplies, joy invites. Jesus glances at you, his expression open and warm. You were not created to walk through life by yourself, he continues. Not the victories, not the struggles, not the quiet nights, not the uncertain seasons. His words touch something raw, something tender. Because you know the feeling of being surrounded yet lonely. You know the ache of carrying things silently. You know the weight of believing your battles were yours to manage alone. But Jesus shakes his head gently, as if brushing away that old belief. You are not alone, he says, and you were never meant to be. The fire crackles, sending a soft burst of sparks upward, tiny lights rising like little reminders that connection is part of the design. Jesus continues, my presence is always with you, but I also place people in your life, people to walk with you, to lift you up, to remind you of truth when you forget. He gestures around the empty clearing. Right now it's just you and me. But this fire is not only for you, it's a fire meant for many. You blink at the words. Many. You look at the flames, their warmth, their glow, their steady invitation, and suddenly the space around you feels bigger, as if there's room for more here than you initially realized. This fire, Jesus says, represents community. He lets that sit in the air before continuing. Not perfect people, not people who never make mistakes, but people who are learning to love, learning to grow, learning to heal, just like you. You feel a stirring inside your chest, a recognition of something you've longed for but rarely acknowledged, a place to belong, a place to be known, a place to be understood. Jesus notices the flicker of longing in your eyes. Belonging is not earned, he says gently. It's given. It's shared. It's lived out, not through flawless lives, but through hearts learning to love each other. He smiles softly. Just as I have loved you. The fire's glow seems to stretch outward a little more, almost as if responding to the truth he's speaking. You picture others sitting around this flame, laughing, crying, sharing stories, praying, resting, people finding warmth and safety in the same presence you're experiencing now. And the image feels right, like something meant for you, like something part of your future. Jesus looks at you knowingly. The healing you've received here isn't just for you, he says. It's also for the people you will sit with, walk with, care for. He pauses, his expression deepening with tenderness. You carry my compassion now, you carry my joy, and when you step into community, those gifts will become light for others. You breathe slowly, absorbing the weight and beauty of it. Serving isn't just about action, it's also about presence, about showing up, about being the kind of person others can lean on because you've learned to lean on him. Jesus continues, in community you will learn to give and you will learn to receive. He looks toward the fire again. You will pray with others, you will listen, you will encourage, you will laugh deeply, you will grow beside people who carry their own wounds and their own victories. Then his tone grows softer, more intimate, and you will finally understand that you do not walk through any season alone. A quiet peace washes over you, settling like warmth beneath your skin. The idea of community doesn't feel intimidating anymore. It feels like a gift, a fire waiting to be shared. Jesus studies your face, reading every unspoken thought. You belong, he says simply. Not someday, not if you reach a certain level of holiness. Not if you never make another mistake. He leans in slightly. You belong because I made space for you, and that space cannot be taken away. Something in your chest loosens, something that had been tight for years. The longing you carried for connection, for family, for belonging, it's finally met with truth that holds you gently instead of demanding anything from you. Jesus lets silence fill the space, but it's a good silence, warm, full, expectant. This fire, he says quietly, is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your belonging. And as the embers pulse, glowing brighter than before, you sense the next chapter forming, not just belonging in community, but belonging in him, in a way that seals everything you've learned tonight into a deep, unshakable identity. The night is settled into a deep, velvety quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, but full of warmth, full of presence, full of everything you've been led through tonight. The fire burns low now, not fading, just settling into a slow and steady glow. Its warmth spreads gently, wrapping the clearing in a soft embrace. It feels like the entire forest is exhaling with you. Jesus sits beside you, and his presence feels even more grounding than before, steady, peaceful, protective. There's no rush in him, no urgency, just calm, just assurance, just the gentle certainty that he is here, he is near, and he is watching over you. You've come far tonight, he says, his voice warm like the embers, more than you realize. You look at him, and something in his expression confirms it. This wasn't just a conversation. This wasn't just comfort. It was a journey, one that moved through shadows, through fear, through healing, through joy, through belonging. And now it reaches a place your soul has craved more than anything. Rest. Jesus shifts his gaze to the fire. Rest is not weakness, he says. It's trust. His words land gently, like soft falling leaves. Rest means you no longer feel the need to hold everything together. It means you believe that I'm holding you. Your shoulders loosen without you trying. The tension that once clung to you slowly melts, replaced by a serene heaviness, the kind that comes only when a long journey finds its ending. The fire crackles quietly, each soft pop sounding like a heartbeat. You watch the embers pulse with gentle light, and the warmth draws you deeper into calm. You feel your breath slow, your thoughts soften, your heart quiet. Jesus sees it. He smiles, the kind of smile that makes everything inside you unclench. You're safe, he whispers. Even when you sleep, I do not. There's something profoundly comforting in that. The idea that rest doesn't mean vulnerability, that sleep doesn't mean exposure, that you don't have to stay alert, braced, guarded, because he stays awake, he keeps watch. I watched over you on the nights you cried, he says softly. I watched over you on the nights you felt numb. I watched over you on the nights you didn't think you'd make it, and I'm watching over you now. The wind drifts gently through the clearing, but the fire's warmth holds strong. It feels like a physical manifestation of his protection, a circle of safety, a quiet refuge. You don't need to lift your guard. You don't need to keep your fears close. Everything that once weighed on you has softened into peace. You can rest, Jesus murmurs. You've carried enough. Your eyes close for a moment, not from exhaustion, but from relief, real relief, the kind that sinks into your bones, the kind that makes your body feel heavier in a good way. Jesus continues, when you rest, I restore you. When you sleep, I strengthen you. Rest is where I breathe new life into places still tender. You open your eyes again, just enough to see his calm expression in the firelight. He looks peaceful, unshaken, completely present, like a guardian who doesn't grow tired or distracted. The clearing feels like a sanctuary, the fire the altar, his presence the covering, the night sky a soft canopy overhead. You feel held in a way you haven't felt in years, maybe ever. Lay your burdens down, Jesus says gently. All of them. I'm here. You take a slow breath, and as you exhale, it feels like something inside you releases. Old pressure, old fear, old expectations. They slip away into the warm night air, leaving behind only stillness. A stillness that settles deep. A stillness that feels like home. Jesus' voice softens further. This rest is not temporary, he says. It's the beginning of a new way of living, with a heart at peace, a mind unburdened, a soul anchored in me. You let your body lean slightly, not collapsing, but allowing yourself to relax in his presence. Your eyes grow heavier, not from fatigue, but from comfort, the kind of comfort that comes from knowing you don't have to be strong right now. You don't have to think, you don't have to try, you can simply be, and he is here. As the fire's glow dims into a soft, rhythmic pulse, Jesus keeps his watch, silent, steady, faithful. The world feels distant now, the worries of tomorrow quiet, the past no longer loud. There is only warmth, only peace, only him. Rest now, he whispers, voice barely above the crackle of the embers. I am near, I am here, and I will keep watch. Your spirit settles into the deepest calm you've known, a calm that feels like the final chapter of a long journey and the first breath of a new beginning. And under his watchful eyes, the night closes gently around you, holding you in perfect peace.